Chapter 1238. The old man chuckled and blasted out the cosmic cauldron, sweeping up thousands of Dao runes and laws. The mountain-like cauldron shadow collided with the soft multicolored ribbons, giving rise to an intense rumbling sound. Crack! It was as if something had been smashed, and a vacuum space appeared under the old man's cosmic cauldron. The silent five-element spatial shackles did not take shape under the old man's cosmic cauldron. Even so, the old man did not stop. After tearing the five-element spatial shackles apart, the cosmic cauldron blasted the center of the five-colored ribbons. The hidden spatial devouring crack collapsed under the old man's cosmic cauldron. Puff! The woman who threw out the ribbons spat out a mouthful of blood and flew backward. Only then did the woman who had been looking at an realize that her companion had lost. She flew backward immediately and caught the woman who had spat out blood. Then she stared at the old man in shock. You're at the early stage of Dao integration, but your Dao runes are so profound. Two caterpillars dare to be rude to me. Get lost. Don't anger your grandpa Ping Ding. The old man said disdainfully as he grabbed the cosmic cauldron in the void. All the experts in the Great Change realm did not speak. Although Great Emperor Ping Ding was at the early stage of Dao integration, who was Ping Ding? He was an ancient Great Emperor. It was very normal for him to be able to easily slap an early-stage Dao integration woman from the Seven Deities Temple. He had even killed Su Xinghe with ease. The woman did not refute the old man's sarcastic words. Instead, the two of them landed in front of everyone again. The two of them did not continue to fight. They just stood there in the void, looking equally beautiful and equally tall. You do have the ability to look down on us. I'm the sixth temple master of the Seven Deities Temple, Shanli, and the one beside me is the seventh temple master, Ruan Yi. You have two choices. One is for us to leave now, and the other is for you to come with us. The woman on the left spoke in a tone that was devoid of color. The old man was stunned. These two women had clearly lost just now. Why were they still speaking so confidently? Jie Xinshui frowned slightly and stepped forward with cupped fists. Two temple masters, this is a friend of the Great Change realm. She has also helped the Great Change realm kill the demonic creatures. You're Jie Xinshui, a Dao Lord of the Taishan Dao Court. If you are good enough as a Dao Lord, the Seven Gods Hall doesn't mind kicking you out. Don't think that just because the Taishan Dao Court has a powerful guardian, you are not qualified to speak here. Shanli did not wait for Jie Xinshui to finish speaking and interrupted him rudely. Ningqing slightly frowned. Jie Xinshui had good intentions. The Seven Gods Temple was simply too arrogant. It was actually threatening a Dao Lord in such a manner. However, looking at the sixth Hall Master and the seventh Hall Master, one was at the Dao Integration Intermediate stage, while the other was at the Dao Integration Initial stage. It seemed like the seven Hall Masters of the seven Divine Palaces were all Dao integration experts. No wonder they were so arrogant. And you can return to the Seven Deities Palace with us. The first Hall Master will definitely treat you differently. Ruani said as she pointed at an who was wearing a light blue dress. She did not know why she wanted to take an away. Hearing that an had to go with them, Ningqing's face turned cold. Is the seven shrines that great? Since it was so impressive, why was there no one from the Seven Deities Temple when the Tai demonic creatures erupted? A group of selfish blood-sucking worms that only knew how to use resources and didn't know how to fulfill their obligations. Get lost, go back to where you came from. Don't embarrass yourself here. While speaking, Ningqing raised his hand and blasted out several time wheels. The faces of the two Hall Masters of the Seven Deities Temple changed. Ningqing's words did not give them any face at all. However, in the face of Ningqing's time wheels, the two could only retreat quickly. With a whistling sound, the place where the two had just stood in the air turned into a flat plain, as if it had been sliced by the Dao. Although the two Hall Masters were not injured, both of them knew that Ningqing's move was a disdainful insult. It was like chasing the two away like dogs. Gugg. Shanli's face turned livid, and she raised her hand and shot out a red light. It seems that the Seven Deities Temple has not come out for a long time, and many people have forgotten about it. Jie Xinshui saw Ningqing standing up for him and secretly felt grateful. Although Ningqing did not do it for him, only Ningqing did not fear the Seven Deities Temple. Bai Ling, who had not spoken until now, suddenly said, Dao Lord Ning is right. The Seven Deities Temple is indeed a selfish parasite. The demonic creatures are wreaking havoc in the Great Change Realm, and all the human cultivators in the Great Change Realm are contributing. Even the people who have a grudge with each other are contributing their strength here. Only the Seven Deities Temple not only did not contribute, but also became overbearing. He standing up for Su Xinghe? Su Xinghe is just a dog of the Seven Deities Temple. Bai Ling, do you dare to be arrogant to my Seven Deities Temple just because Yahua Dao Court has guruashi? I still say the same thing, just like Jie Shui. Keep your tail between your legs. Yishanli's tone turned even colder. Jie Shui was a Dao Lord of a court, not to mention in front of Dao Lord Ning Cheng, whom he respected. At this time, being constantly insulted by a woman, how could he bear it? It's fine if the Seven Deities Temple is a turtle, but don't point your fingers here. In Dao Lord Ning's words, go back to where you came from. The two Dao Lords stood up, and Shanli's face turned ugly. The seventh Hall Master Ruan Yi, who had not spoken, suddenly sent a voice transmission to Shanli. Sixth sister, that Dao Lord Ning should be a Dao Lord of the Taisu Dao Court, right? This person is very strong, and can command several Dao integration experts. The guy who fought with me just now is not simple. Together with the Great Xian and Yahua Dao Court, we still. Although Shanli was angry, she did not continue to flip out. Seeing that the two of them did not leave, the old man suddenly said, the Seven Deities Temple is very arrogant. Xingwen Realm Lord, you don't seem to be a good Realm Lord. The two Hall Masters came, but they didn't see you. Yin Xingwen's expression remained the same, and he did not get angry because of the old man's words. Yahua Dao Court's guruashi said softly, they do have the capital to be arrogant. The Great Change Realm originally belonged to the 6 major Dao Courts, and the Confucian Pavilion Dao Court was destroyed by the Seven Deities Temple. The reason is very simple. The Seven Deities Temple has taken a fancy to the Confucian Pavilion Dao Court's #1 sacred city, Micro Jade Sacred City. In addition, they pretend to be mysterious. Whoever dares to disrespect the Seven Deities Temple will be destroyed. Over the years, they have gained some false reputation. Ning Cheng understood the meaning of Guruashi's words. Since Guruashi had even said this, she obviously intended to support him and not give the Seven Deities Temple any face. At the same time, he also understood why Shanli spoke so arrogantly and looked down on everyone. This might not necessarily be intentional. It was to maintain a kind of arrogant arrogance. Of course, it was more of a kind of self-righteousness that had formed naturally over a long period of time. Boom! A roar reverberated in the sky, and then a crack appeared. Behind the crack, a beautiful chariot appeared. In the middle of the chariot sat a man in luxurious clothes. His face was fair and beardless, and he wore a great emperor's crown on his head. Beside him sat 3 stunning women. In addition, there were 18 beautiful maids of the same height serving on the side. Colorful clouds floated around the chariot, and around the colorful clouds were immortal cranes. The extravagance was extremely exaggerated. Based on the man's cultivation level, it was obvious that he was a peak Dao integration expert. Even the 3 stunning women by his side were Dao integration experts. Together with Shanli and Ruan Yi, there were already 6 Dao integration experts. Ning Qing did not care about the man in luxurious clothes and the other Dao integration experts at all. His gaze fell on the beautiful chariot under the man. This was definitely a top-notch treasure, and it was not simple at all. Big brother. When Shanli and Ruan Yi saw the chariot, the coldness on their faces had long disappeared and turned into passionate admiration. Big brother? Ning Cheng was a little puzzled. Jie Shui, who was next to him, sent a voice transmission to Ning Cheng. Dao Lord Ning might not know, but this man is the Seven Deities Temple's first Hall Master, Mo Gu. The second Hall Master to the 7th Hall Master of the Seven Deities Temple are all women, and they are also the first Hall Master's cultivation partners. That's why they call him Brother Gu, not Big Brother. The man in luxurious clothes seemed to have heard Jie Shui's voice transmission. He glanced at Jie Shui with a smile and suddenly said in a gentle and warm tone, Li Li, quickly come to the chariot. It's cold outside. The old fart suddenly made a retching sound. So sour, so sour. This is simply making me vomit out the rice I ate 1,000,000 years ago. The man in luxurious clothes looked at the old fart and said in a flat tone, "You killed Su Xinghe and injured my woman?" Shanli immediately said, "Yes, Brother Gu. It's him." Speaking of this, she suddenly changed to a voice transmission. "He also has a heaven and earth cauldron. I guess it's a Khanate treasure." Although it was a voice transmission, it still fell into Ning Cheng's ears. Sure enough, after the man in luxurious clothes heard this, his eyes shrank and he looked away from the old fart. Yin Xingwen saw the man in luxurious clothes looking over and quickly stepped forward with cupped fists. "Hall Master Mo, long time no see." The man in luxurious clothes smiled softly. "It's indeed been a long time. Congratulations, Realm Lord Xingwen." Yin Xingwen knew why the man in luxurious clothes congratulated him. This was to congratulate him for taking control of the Luiying Dao court. However, he just smiled and did not speak. The man in luxurious clothes did not ask anymore. Instead, his gaze fell on Ningcheng. "This must be Dao Lord Tai Su Ningcheng, the one who told my 7 deities hall masters to scram, right? Sure enough, you look talented. Your cultivation level is also not bad. Both are at the early stage primordial chaos realm. Let's get to know each other. I am the 7 deities hall master, Mo Gu." Ningcheng had long since grown tired of this kind of speech. At this moment, when the man in luxurious clothes spoke to him, he said without any trace of politeness, "You can also scram. Don't affect this father's mood." Mo Gu did not seem to care about Ningcheng's impoliteness. He still said with a smile, "I like the woman beside you a lot. Today, I want to take her away." This time, Ningcheng did not even bother to say scram. Instead, his creation divine spear swept up with endless Dao runes and blasted over. When the surrounding people saw Ningcheng make a move, they immediately made way. Ningcheng's creation divine spear swept up a terrifying spatial killing aura and smashed towards Mo Gu like an entire realm. Chapter 1239. Ningcheng's spear swept up a vast and majestic killing aura. Wei Xinghao, who had always thought that no matter how strong Ningcheng was, he was just a primordial chaos sacred emperor. If he had used a spear, he would not have been able to display such terrifying power. Lord Hall Master Mo Gu, who also did not care about a mere primordial chaos sacred emperor like Ningcheng, could no longer continue sitting in the carriage after Ningcheng's spear shot out. Seeing Ningcheng's spear, he knew that Ningcheng's strength had far exceeded his estimation. He had been too lazy to get up from the carriage previously, because Ningcheng was just a primordial chaos sacred emperor, and the old fart was just a Dao integration expert. As for Yin Xingwen, he was sure that the other party would not dare to attack him. Taishan Dao Court and Yahua Dao Court? Was a battle between experts something that could be won with numbers? As Mo Gu rushed out of the carriage, he shouted sternly, "Li Li, extract that Dao transformation woman's principal spirit. Leave her physical body behind." At the same time, aside from him, more than 20 women on the carriage also flew out in all directions. They were like dancing flowers in the air. Although these women's long skirts fluttered in the air, revealing an even more alluring scene, no one below paid attention to these women. All the experts retreated one after another, focusing all their attention on the confrontation between Ningcheng and Mo Gu. After hearing Moge's words, 6th Hall Master Shanli shouted, "Sisters, help me stop that old thing called Sherding. I'll go capture the soul." As she spoke, Shanli rushed towards an boom, crack. Ningcheng's creation divine spear and Moge's carriage collided, sweeping up the shattered Dao rune laws that filled the sky. Ningcheng's domain, which rarely cracked, also cracked at this moment. The layers of Dao runes outside Moge's carriage were directly torn apart by Ningcheng. Neither of them had used their full strength in the first exchange. Although Ningcheng had a slight upper hand, the cracks in his domain immediately affected an only had Dao transformation strength. Without Ningcheng's protection, she could not even move under the suppression of a Dao integration expert's power. A deathly killing intent shrouded her head. Her face was a little pale, and she could only watch helplessly as Shanli extracted her principal spirit. The old fart was blocked by the other 4 seven deities temple masters at this moment, and could not split himself at all. Ningcheng was so furious that he could no longer care about Mo. He brought out the everlasting blue thunder city, and at the same time, he blasted the creation divine spear towards He Shanli. Puff! Before He Shanli's handprint could reach her head, Annie had already spat out a mouthful of blood, and her primordial spirit was almost forcibly pulled out. Crack! As He Shanli was about to grab Annie's Dao runes. The same moment He Shanli was an ice cage that locked in Cheng. Ka! Just as He Shanli was about to grab Annie's essence spirit, a space that was like an ice cage locked her in place, preventing her Dao charm aura from advancing any further. Cheng had the intent. He Dao Rung He would break. Mo God He Cheng grabbed N's Cheng and tried. Dao Rung's Cheng and said. Moge's face turned livid with anger. He didn't think that Ning Cheng would dare to turn around and attack his woman. Sky collapsing divine chariot. Mo Gu took a step forward, and the magnificent chariot under him turned into a sky in an instant. This part of the sky completely enveloped Ning Cheng and directly pressed down on Ning Cheng. It was as if the entire sky had collapsed, and no power could stop it. The moment the chariot pressed down, the laws of heaven and earth shattered, and Ning Cheng's domain was torn apart. This was not a law-breaking divine ability, but it was more direct than Ning Cheng's law-breaking divine ability. Any law-breaking divine ability would be like floating clouds in the face of such a forceful crushing chariot. The sky-collapsing divine ability not only made Yin Xingwen's face turn ugly, but even the Dao lords of the Yahua Dao court and the Taishan Dao court, who were ready to fall out with the seven deities temple, also had ugly expressions. Once such a terrifying divine ability came crashing down, even tens of millions of Dao court soldiers would not be able to withstand it. Boom kacha! The violent and majestic sky-collapsing divine chariot slammed into Ning Cheng's everlasting blue thunder fort. In an instant, the everlasting blue thunder fort dissipated and returned to normal. After a few cracks appeared, it directly retreated into Ning Cheng's sea of consciousness. Ning Cheng's bones shattered inch by inch, and his body was covered in cracks and blood. Even so, Ning Cheng did not have the slightest thought of turning back to resist Mo Gu. The creation divine spear still swept up the sky full of killing intent and blasted into the cracked ice-sealed space. A shrill scream came out, and Ning Cheng's creation divine spear suddenly stopped. Time and space came to a standstill at this moment, and everyone's breathing stopped at this moment. Mo Gu looked at Ning Cheng's long spear in disbelief. Ning Cheng's long spear carried a woman. It was He Shanli, who was about to kill an Yi and take away her essence spirit. After a few breaths, Mo Gu suddenly screamed. How dare you kill my Shanli? I will swallow your flesh, drink your blood, and burn your essence spirit for billions of years. The creation divine spear in Ning Cheng's hand suddenly trembled, and He Shanli, who was at the spearhead, disappeared from the entire space like air. Ning Cheng raised his hand and swallowed a few medicinal pills. Moge's injuries looked more terrible than the giant void hand, but in fact, the damage to him was far less than the previous explosion from the void. Kacha kacha. Almost in a flash, Ning Cheng's bones reassembled, and his injuries healed by 90%. The strength of a body-refining expert was vividly reflected at this moment. An Yi's essence spirit returned to her body, and her body also relaxed. She knew that continuing to stay in the front would only bring trouble to Ning Cheng, so she quickly retreated. Are you a body-refining expert with a true sage body? Mo Gu saw that Ning Cheng's injuries had almost recovered in a short period of time. Instead, he stopped what he was about to do and calmed down. He stared at Ning Cheng with cold eyes. Ning Cheng ignored Mo Gu and looked at the old fogey. The old fogey was at a disadvantage against 4 people. If it weren't for his universal palace, the old fogey would have already lost and fled. Dao Lord Ning, go ahead and deal with Mo Gu. I'll help Sacred Emperor Ping Cauldron. Gu Ruashi, who had been hesitating, stood up after seeing Ning Cheng kill the 6th Hall Master. The 7 deity temples were very mysterious, but this kind of mystery was only relative to ordinary people. For some Dao integration powerhouses, they were not completely ignorant of the 7 deity temples. Lord Hall Master Mo Gu loved the other 6 Hall Masters to the bone. Now that Ning Cheng had killed the sixth hall master, this matter could no longer be reconciled. Once Ning Cheng lost, the Yahua Dao court would face the revenge of the 7 deity temples. Instead of waiting to fight to the death with the 7 deity temples in the future, it was better to make a move now. If they made a move now, it was still unknown who would win. There's also me Wuxia Yoshin. A tall man standing behind Jie Xinshui stood up. He was also a Dao integration powerhouse. Jie Xinshui said to Ning Cheng, Senior Wuxia is the guardian of the Taishan Dao court. Dao Lord Ning, let's advance and retreat together this time. He had the same thoughts as Guruashi. If no one had died, this matter could still be discussed. Now that Ning Cheng had killed the sixth hall master, this matter had long become a dead end. Ning Cheng nodded. He did not need to say anything to the old man. Since he had killed the sixth hall master, the old man would definitely kill him in the next battle. This kind of ancient expert, let alone a few hall masters, even if he were to annihilate all 7 divine halls, he would not even frown. Mo Gu stared at Ning Cheng with a gloomy expression. Even if I can't kill you today, I will let you know the consequences of offending the 7 deity temples. I will let the souls of everyone who knows you suffer before they die. I will let you always remember that no matter how strong you are, there are some people you cannot touch. Moge's anger disappeared and he became terrifyingly calm. The carriage under his feet suddenly split apart and turned into a 5-colored weak Dao pattern. In a breath's time, this weak Dao pattern completely enveloped the space where he and Ning Cheng were, forming a world. World creation? Ning Cheng cried out in shock when he felt his spiritual consciousness and vision being blocked. This was not space control, but world control. No, Ning Cheng quickly understood that Mo Gu had not reached the world creation realm. This was just a world simulated by the chariot. Ning Cheng once again brought out the Good Fortune Divine Spear. But he was horrified to find that his Good Fortune Divine Spear could not sweep up this killing power. Everything here did not belong to him. Several time wheels shot out, only to bring back a few dull sounds. Then, like mud falling into the sea. What kind of spirit technique was this? Ning Cheng had just thought of this when a crisis of death seeped into his consciousness. Ning Cheng's figure flashed slightly, and with a puff sound, a blade light flashed across his waist, almost tearing his clothes apart. Ning Cheng's heart sank. A blade light could not make him feel a crisis of death. The only possibility was that this blade light contained a terrifying spirit technique, or some kind of insidious poison. The surrounding domain seemed to become more and more solid, but also darker and darker. Although he couldn't see where Mo Gu was, Ning Cheng felt sure that Mo Gu was not far from him, staring at him like a poisonous snake. This chariot was a treasure that could simulate a world creation spirit technique. Ning Cheng also calmed down, and no longer looked for Mo Gu. Instead, he raised his hand and cast out a spirit technique, none to depend on. Looking at Moge's sincere love for his Dao companions, as long as this fellow hid to the side, the none to depend on spirit technique could find him. None to depend on was a Dao sense spirit technique. At this time, Ning Cheng's Dao charm had solidified. When he cast none to depend on, its effect was no weaker than the chariot's world creation spirit technique. None to depend on, yellow sand rises. West Wind Ancient Road has a skinny horse, relying on each other for a long time with tears. Yellow sand suddenly rolled up in the grayish space. The yellow sand grew stronger from weak to strong and finally formed a yellow sand ripple. Then a long ancient road slowly emerged from the yellow sand. Ning Cheng suddenly grabbed a barrel of none to depend on wine, and gulped it down in a few mouthfuls. As the Dao charm of none to depend on grew stronger, the ancient road under the yellow sand grew more and more vicissitudes of life. However, there was no one on the ancient road. It was as if Mo Gu had disappeared. Ning Cheng immediately sensed an even sharper, deathly murderous intent. This time, Ning Cheng didn't try to avoid the murderous intent. Instead, he grabbed the wine jar and took a step forward while singing loudly. Mysterious yellow rises. The body is like duckweed floating for millions of miles. Looking down at the vast starry sky, how many sword rains and saber lights, life and death are in a line. Crossing the void to see the good fortune. Where can one obtain eternal life? The voice was hoarse and filled with vicissitudes of life, with a hint of alcohol. Chapter 1240. In the voice of the vicissitudes of life, Mo Gu, who had disappeared, finally set foot on the long ancient road. Mo Gu held a circle of light shadows with death aura in his hand, and his face seemed to be constantly changing. None to depend on, yellow sand rises, a thin horse on the west wind ancient road. Relying on each other for a long time with tears, none to depend on. Don't abandon your heart. Looking at each other from afar, it's better to turn around and leave each other. On the opposite side of Mo Gu, under the hazy yellow sand, a figure slowly appeared on the long ancient path. It was a pretty woman, leading a thin and weak old horse. She vaguely looked like He Shanli. Mo's eyes suddenly filled with pity and self-blame. Unlike the other cultivators who fell into the none to depend on divine power, he did not hesitate to rush towards He Shanli instead of turning around and leaving. Ningcheng gripped the creation divine spear tightly, and did not attack Mo Gu at the best time. He Shanli's appearance here showed what Mo Gu was thinking. This was the condensation of the Dao runes deep in his heart. Ningcheng really did not have the heart to make a move at this time, because Mo Gu was the first person who did not abandon his Dao companion after falling into the none to depend on divine power. Seeing that Mo Gu was about to rush to He Shanli's side, Ningcheng knew that he could not hesitate anymore. The creation divine spear swept up thousands of spear lights and Dao runes, directly crossing the space and blasting towards Mo Gu. Mo Gu, who was about to reach He Shanli, suddenly trembled. The confusion in his eyes disappeared instantly, and the next moment he held the death light shadow in his hand and smashed it towards Ningcheng. Boom! The traceless spear pattern and the light shadow collided, and an explosion of Dao runes filled the sky. The surrounding laws were no longer traceless, but under this explosion of Dao runes, they shattered inch by inch. The yellow sand in the sky disappeared, and the thin horse on the ancient road disappeared. Ningcheng's spiritual consciousness and vision were no longer obstructed, and became clear. Poof! The traceless spear pattern brought up a bloody mist, and a few light shadows passed through Ningcheng's domain at the same time and blasted Ningcheng's body. Ka! The vague world formed by the chariot disappeared without a trace. Ningcheng gripped the creation divine spear, and faced Mo Gu in the void. The blood on Mo's eyebrows was eroded by the traceless spear intent, and could not be stopped at all. It slid down Mo's face. Mo's face was expressionless as his eyes fell on the old man. At this time, only two of the four hall masters were left fighting the old man, Guruashi, and Wuxia. The other two were already dead on the ground. Guruashi was also in Bai Ling's arms. It was unknown whether she was dead or alive. Even though this space was protected by the domains of the people who didn't participate in the battle, it was still filled with ravines and chaos. Unlike He Shanli's death, Mo Gu had lost two more women. However, the madness on his face was gone. However, the ice-cold killing intent in his eyes grew stronger and stronger. That kind of hatred was like the Yangtze River and the sea. Man, you and Bing Bing take Shuer and Ear's bodies and leave immediately. If I don't come back, tell Cherry Blossoms. Cherry Blossoms will avenge me. After Mo Gu finished speaking, he once again turned his gaze towards Ningcheng. Yes. The remaining two women did not hesitate to pick up the two corpses on the ground and quickly retreated. The 18 maids who hadn't made a move all this while also retreated quickly. The old fart didn't stop him, but he was also heavily injured. The woman who had retreated just now was not any weaker than him. When he killed the 7th palace master named Ruan Yi, the other party had plotted against him. If Ningcheng hadn't been there, he would have escaped long ago. The old fart didn't stop him, and Wuxia naturally didn't stop him either. He was also seriously injured. If the other party didn't retreat, he might end up like Guruashi. It wasn't that Ningcheng didn't want to move, but he couldn't. His previous guess was right. Mo's light and shadow contained extremely terrifying toxins. It actually obstructed the flow of his Dao charm, and even started to corrode his sea of consciousness. At this time, Ningcheng was trying his best to contain the invasion of the poison. Before this, the most powerful poison Ningcheng had seen was the pattern bone poison. Ningcheng definitely wasn't any weaker than the pattern bone poison. The pattern bone poison was one of the top 10 poisons in the world. Ning Cheng guessed that the poison in his body must also be one of the top 10 poisons. Not only was Mo Gu powerful and had terrifying spiritual power, but his use of poison was also appalling. Even with his current strength and understanding of the Tao, Mo Gu still managed to seriously injure him after breaking free from the nun to depend on poison. This Mo Gu's tyrannical strength was unbelievable. Just as he said, he truly had the ability to be arrogant. After the 20 women left, Mo Gu stared at Ning Cheng and said, "You're the strongest person I've ever seen since I started cultivating. Your intent realm spirit technique was very powerful. If you hadn't gone soft, you would have killed me. However, you've killed my woman, so I'll definitely kill everyone around you. Then, I'll use the most vicious fire to burn your primordial spirit. You won't have the chance." Ning Cheng forcibly sealed the toxins in his body. He knew that Mo Gu was also forcibly expelling the Tao charm from his spear intent. Crushing. Mo Gu unleashed his spirit technique while Ning Cheng spoke. The restored chariot rolled up once again, and the chariot turned into 7 colors. These 7 colors merged with the surrounding laws of heaven and earth, and instantly formed a 7-colored Tao charm. The 7-colored Tao charm filled the space between heaven and earth and swept towards Ning Cheng like raging waves. Compared to this 7-colored Tao charm, the 7th Hall Master's 5-element spatial shackles felt like a baby learning to walk. Ning Cheng gripped the creation divine spear tightly and took a small step forward. He then raised his hand and unleashed a spirit technique. The law-breaking spirit technique wouldn't have much effect in the face of this 7-colored Tao charm. From the time he fought against Mo Gu until now, Ning Cheng already knew that Mo Gu was a top-notch expert. Moreover, like him, Mo Gu could control laws. Even if he used the law-breaking spirit technique, the 7-colored Tao charm of the chariot could still derive its own laws. Just like the fake world from before, with his current cultivation, the laws couldn't interfere with it. What Ning Cheng brought out was the 4th Yellow Springs Bridge. A long yellow river came from the void and roared around Ning Cheng. The long cyan bridge landed under Ning Cheng's feet. As soon as the 4th Yellow Springs Bridge came out, the rolling long river and the 7-colored Tao charm collided. The 7-colored light and the yellow river's Tao charm exploded, and the surrounding spatial domain shattered inch by inch. Small void cracks appeared once again. The majestic Tao charm rolling over the Yellow Springs Bridge completely blocked the 7-colored Tao charm that was about to imprison Ning Cheng again. At this time, Ning Cheng could exit Moge's 7-colored Tao charm space at any time. Not waiting for the 2's Tao charm spirit techniques to explode, Ning Cheng's sea of consciousness stirred, and the dark consciousness storm blasted out like an invisible sea. Passively taking a beating had never been Ning Cheng's habit. As soon as the dark consciousness storm formed, Ning Cheng's face suddenly turned pale. Facing the 7-colored Tao charm that was getting more and more restrictive, Ning Cheng not only didn't retreat, but also took a step forward. The dark consciousness storm formed an even more terrifying spiritual consciousness attack. Dark consciousness explosion. Although shocked that Ning Cheng even had the 4th Yellow Springs Bridge, Mo Gu didn't feel disappointed that the Yellow Springs Bridge had blocked the 7-colored Tao charm. Instead, a cold smile appeared on his face. 7-colored Tao convergence kill. The 7-colored Tao charm spatial shackles suddenly disappeared, and in a flash, it condensed into a Tao charm killing intent that directly ignored space and blasted into Ning Cheng's glabella. At the same time, Ning Cheng's dark consciousness explosion blasted into Moge's sea of consciousness. The cold smile on Moge's face froze, and he spat out a mouthful of blood. He didn't hesitate to turn around, and the magnificent chariot landed under his feet. The next moment, he appeared on the horizon. Ning Cheng, even if I can't kill you this time, don't even think about. Moge's voice suddenly stopped, and his eyes showed a trace of fear in the face of death. His entire body also froze. An aura of death locked onto him. No matter how he moved, he would die without a doubt. 5-colored star splitter arrow. Since Mo Gu appeared, this was the first time his voice trembled. A trace of purple blood overflowed from the corner of Ning Cheng's mouth. His glabella, like Mo Gu, was also bleeding. If it weren't for the celestial river flame in his sea of consciousness, The 7-colored Dao charm condensed from the Dao charm would have already exploded his sea of consciousness. The celestial river flame was a sacred flame with a fire spirit. Therefore, when this attack blasted into Ning Cheng's sea of consciousness, it immediately turned into a fiery light that wrapped around the Dao charm killing intent and burned it to ashes. Even so, the exploding killing intent still caused great damage to Ning Cheng's sea of consciousness. Fortunately, Ning Cheng's sea of consciousness was a starry sky sea of consciousness, which was tough and vast. Therefore, this kind of damage quickly disappeared. I told you, you can't get away. Ning Cheng's voice fell, and the 5-colored star splitter arrow shot out with a tearing sound. At this moment, Ning Cheng's strength was no longer the same as before, which required him to gather power for half a day. Almost at the same time he brought out the 5-colored star splitter arrow. The star splitter arrow, along with the aura of death, crossed space-time. A grayish deathly aura spread out, and everyone could only feel the aura of death wrapping around Mo. However, they couldn't even see the shadow of the 5-colored star splitter arrow. Bang! Mo's entire body collapsed under the impact of the 5-colored star splitter arrow. Ning Cheng, who stood on the Yellow Springs Bridge, swayed slightly and even staggered a little. Ning Cheng swallowed several detoxification pills. He knew that these pills couldn't detoxify the poison in his body, and could only temporarily suppress it. At least he managed to kill Mo. Ning Cheng raised his hand and wanted to grab Mo's chariot and storage ring. A jade-like arm stretched out from the void, and a delicate white hand grabbed Mo's storage ring in front of Ning Cheng. It even swept away the chariot. Ning Cheng became furious. He had worked so hard to obtain this victory, but now it was going to become a wedding dress for others. Before Ning Cheng could speak, that jade-like hand grabbed the 5-colored star splitter arrow that Ning Cheng had not yet taken back. Ning Cheng laughed out of anger. She even wanted his weapon. Was she bullying him because he was poisoned and seriously injured? A spiritual consciousness imprint shot out, and the jade-like hand grabbing the 5-colored star splitter arrow suddenly exploded. The 5-colored star splitter arrow directly cut through space and disappeared into Ning Cheng's wrist. Remember, my name is Yuinghua, the 7 World Shrine's 2nd Temple Master. One day, I will come find you. With these words, the torn void in the distance suddenly disappeared. Chapter 1241. Ning Cheng's face remained calm. He had blown off one of Yuinghua's hands. His strength would probably drop by another level. Even if he saw the 3rd step, he wouldn't be able to reach it so quickly. A sacred emperor who had yet to reach the 3rd step wanted to snatch his Dharma treasure. Even if he suffered several times more severe injuries, Shi Yuinghua could forget about snatching away the 5-colored star splitter arrow. Big brother Ning. Annie was the first to arrive in front of Ning Cheng. Her face was filled with worry. Ning Cheng put away the 4th Yellow Springs Bridge and forced a smile. Don't worry, I'm a pill sage. This poison can't do anything to me. Dao Lord Ning is truly inferior to us. He actually managed to sever one of Yuinghua's hands despite being heavily injured. It was said that Yuinghua's strength was second only to Mo in the 7 Deity Temple, and she had already taken a peek at the 3rd step. Now that Dao Lord Ning has cut off one of her hands, it will be even more difficult for her to reach the 3rd step. Yin Xingwen laughed and followed Annie. As he spoke, his eyes fell on Ning Cheng. The hand that Yuinghua had used to snatch the treasure was not a Dao rune hand seal, but a real hand. Because of his greed to snatch Ning Cheng's 5-colored star splitter arrow, his arm ended up getting blasted off by Ning Cheng. Ning Cheng knew that Yin Xingwen had a more important meaning behind his words. That is, Yin Xingwen wanted to know how much his strength had dropped. Ning Cheng glanced at Yin Xingwen and spoke with a calm tone. Xingwen World Master, I suffered some injuries, so I won't be coming to your World Lord's Peak today. As for the matter of you kidnapping my friend and preparing to refine the ceiling array pillar, you decide what to do about it. After saying that, Ning Cheng didn't wait for Yin Xingwen to answer, and walked directly to Bai Ling. Dao Lord Bai Ling, many thanks for this. If it wasn't for Gu Ruashi's help, I might not have been able to kill Mo. If Gu Ruashi did not come forward, then Wuxia Yoshin would also not come forward. With the old fart's personality, he would definitely flee if he couldn't win. He would definitely not risk his life to save him. Once the old fart escaped, he would have to face 5 Dao integration experts by himself, including a super expert like Mo Ge. It would be difficult for him to escape. The main reason was that Moge's false world boundary was too powerful. Once this thing trapped him, besides entering the mysterious yellow bead, what else could he do? Bai Ling's expression was somewhat miserable. She shook her head. If Mo Ge doesn't die, my Yahua Dao court will eventually end up like the Confucian Pavilion Dao court. Aunt Shi helping you is equivalent to helping ourselves. But right now, Aunt Shi. Ning Cheng understood Bai Ling's concerns. Gu Ruoxi was the Yahua Dao court's guardian. Once something happened to Gu Ruoxi, the Yahua Dao court would face a storm. Ning Cheng showed a slight smile. Dao Lord Bai Ling, you don't have to worry. Only Dao Friend Gu's essence spirit and Dao charm have dissipated. Under normal circumstances, he could only choose to reincarnate or freeze his primordial spirit, which was about to collapse, to find a way to survive. I'm a pill saint after all, I still have some things on me. With that, Ning Cheng took out a medicinal pill and put it in Bai Ling's hand. Give this medicinal pill to Dao Friend Gu. Once you take it, your essence spirit will condense, and your Dao charm will solidify once again. 16 soul pill? Bai Ling looked at the Dao pill in his hand, and exclaimed in shock. Ning Cheng nodded. That's right, it is indeed the 16 soul pill. If it was a long time ago, I would not dare to say such words. Since Dao Friend Gu's essence spirit has not dissipated, it is the right time to take this pill. Dao Lord Ning, as far as I know, the 16 soul pill cannot condense Dao charm, and the target it saves is only below the Dao essence realm. Mu Wuxia, who stood on the side, spoke up in doubt. Mu Wuxiao's master, Ao Beijiang, had left, but he did not. He had always admired Ning Cheng's Dao of alchemy. Previously, when he stood on the opposite side of Ning Cheng, he had no way to discuss the Dao of alchemy. But now that he was no longer on the opposite side of Ning Cheng, he was ready to discuss the Dao of alchemy with Ning Cheng. If there was anyone who could question Ning Cheng's medicinal pill, it would undoubtedly be him. Bai Ling didn't care about Mu Wuxiao's words and didn't hesitate to put the 16 soul pill into Gu Ruoxi's mouth. Ning Cheng saw Gu Ruoxi swallow the medicinal pill and nodded to Mu Wuxiao. Dao Friend Mu's Dao charm has solidified, and it looks like you're about to reach Dao unification. Ordinary 16 soul pills can't save Gu Ruoxi, but this 16 soul pill is different. I added something in it. What is it? Mu Wuxiao blurted out. Ning Cheng didn't answer Mu Wuxiao's words. He naturally wouldn't tell Mu Wuxiao that his 16 soul pill contained the bestowing lawless fruit. The value of that half a bestowing lawless fruit far exceeded the value of the 16 soul pill. In just a few breaths, Bai Ling was pleasantly surprised to feel that Gu Ruoxi's essence spirit had stopped collapsing. Not only that, but her essence spirit had also started to condense. Even the Dao charm around her body had started to solidify. Bai Ling looked up at Ning Cheng, but before she could even express her gratitude, Gu Ruoxi had already opened her eyes, and immediately sat up. The next moment, endless heaven and earth spirit chi started to gather around her. Gu Ruoxi's Dao charm started to recover at a speed visible to the naked eye. The people around her felt sluggish. They had never seen such a powerful essence spirit Dao core. Ning Cheng sighed in his heart. Sun Hanrui had wasted too much time. Otherwise, a 16 soul pill would have definitely helped her condense her soul. Fortunately, she had her own opportunities. With Nianyan's heaven-defying means, she could definitely save her. Bing Ling felt pleasantly surprised for a while before remembering that she should thank Ning Cheng. She quickly bowed to Ning Cheng and said, "Many thanks, Dao Lord Ning." Yin Xingwen also felt shocked. A medicinal pill that could help a Dao perfection powerhouse condense her essence spirit. This medicinal pill itself was priceless. He didn't have time to consider the impact on him if the Yahua Dao court didn't suffer any damage. Instead, he took out a ring and handed it to Ning Cheng. "Dao Lord Ning, there are some materials in here. Thank you for your help to my great change realm. I hope Dao Lord Ning doesn't mind." He didn't dare to attack Ning Cheng and chose to reconcile with Ning Cheng. Ning Cheng was indeed poisoned, but he only had less than 20% confidence that he could keep Ning Cheng. Moreover, he also had to take into account other people's objections. Once Ning Cheng left, he and Ning Cheng would end up in an irreconcilable situation. Yin Xingwen already had lingering fears about Ning Cheng's combat prowess. Ning Cheng put away the ring and didn't say much. He wanted Yin Xingwen to compensate him, but it was just a matter of formality. This was a warning to Yin Xingwen that if Ning Cheng's friends or people around him appeared in the Great Change Realm in the future, Yin Xingwen would have to be polite. If something like an happened again, the result would not be so simple. Dao Lord Ning, my great mystery Dao Court isn't far from here. When Jie Xinshui saw Ning Cheng take out the 6 soul pill to save Gu Ruoxi, he knew that it was of great importance to befriend Ning Cheng. Ning Cheng wasn't just powerful in his attacks and his array Dao. He was also a top-notch alchemy saint. Ning Cheng didn't wait for Jie Xinshui to finish speaking and tactfully refused. I'm poisoned and need to find a place to detoxify myself. Alchemy Saint Ning, why don't you come to my elixir building? If I'm not wrong, Alchemy Saint Ning is poisoned by the sod adversity poison, one of the top 10 poisons in the world. Mu Wuxia said sincerely. He sincerely wanted to invite Ning Cheng to discuss the alchemy Dao. Sod adversity poison? Sure enough, it was the sod adversity poison. Ning Cheng had guessed that he was poisoned by the sod adversity poison, but he wasn't very sure. Now that Mu Wuxia could tell that he was poisoned by the sod adversity poison, it was definitely the sod adversity poison. The sod adversity poison was one of the top 10 poisons in the world, and it could corrode one's sea of consciousness and Dao charm. Once one's sea of consciousness and Dao charm corroded, one's vitality would gradually dissipate. In the end, the poisoned person would only leave behind an empty corpse with their spiritual soul extinguished. Union Master Mu's understanding of everything in the world truly far surpasses mine. If not for Union Master Mu's reminder, I wouldn't have been sure that I was poisoned by the sod adversity poison. Ning Cheng cupped his fists and spoke with admiration. In any case, Mu Wuxiao had already surpassed him in terms of poison recognition. If he hadn't seen the universe vegetation, he might not have thought of the sod adversity poison. Mu Wuxiao looked ashamed. Alchemy Saint Ning overpraises you. I didn't see the sod adversity poison in you, but I know that Mo Gu once obtained this kind of poison. Unfortunately, I don't have any way to detoxify this poison. I'm willing to discuss this poison with Alchemy Saint Ning and work together to detoxify it. Ning Cheng guessed that Mu Wuxiao meant what he said, but he didn't intend to go to Mu Wuxiao's place to detoxify it. After he politely thanked Mu Wuxiao, he spoke up. Today in the battle against the devils, this Ning can be considered to have fought side by side with all of you. If fate wills it, let's meet again in the future. Goodbye. Everyone came forward to bid farewell to Ning Cheng. Ning Cheng politely said his goodbyes one by one. Finally he walked up to Yan Kong and said, Master Yan Kong, I might visit the 1000 Buddha Sacred Tao sect in the future. Master Yan Kong quickly put his palms together and said, My 1000 Buddha Sacred Tao sect welcomes Tao Lord Ning at any time. Let's go. Ning Cheng laughed and left with an E and the old fogey. The sod adversity poison was terrifying, and the universe vegetation didn't have an antidote. But Ning Cheng didn't worry too much about it. He believed that with his ability, he could eventually find a way to detoxify it. At worst, he could just slowly deduce it. One day, he could deduce a way to detoxify the sod adversity poison. With his starry sky sea of consciousness and Tao of returning to one, the sod adversity poison couldn't kill him in a short time. In fact, Ning Cheng also felt that his Dao charm could temporarily wrap around the sod adversity poison. As for asking Yin Xingwen about the location of the cultivator from the Grand Essence Realm, Ning Cheng quickly dispelled the idea. The main reason was that he was poisoned. Yin Xingwen was too shrewd. Don't look at him acting polite here. But if he stayed in the Grand Change Realm for a long time, Yin Xingwen might not take action against him. He had a place to detoxify. The verdant bamboo forest that Nian Yan had given him back then was a tranquil place. Ning Cheng's group had just left the battlefield in the underground abyss, when a tyrannical spiritual consciousness swept over. Ning Cheng immediately stood in the void. Even if he was poisoned, he wasn't someone that could be dealt with by some stray dogs or cats. A moment later, a beautiful middle-aged woman landed in front of Ning Cheng. Ning Cheng, who originally had a trace of killing intent, suddenly froze when he saw this middle-aged woman. This middle-aged woman was at the peak of primordial chaos realm, and a half-step into Tao integration realm. What surprised Ningcheng was that she looked 70% similar to Shi Qianghua. Chapter 1242. If you don't mind, you can come to a place with me. The middle-aged woman took the initiative to speak up when she saw Ningcheng in a daze. Okay. Ningcheng agreed without hesitation. He had already guessed that this middle-aged woman and Shi Qianghua had a relationship. Since she took the initiative to come to him, it meant that she wanted to tell him about Shi Qianghua. The middle-aged woman brought out a flight-type weapon and flew forward. Ningcheng also brought out a flight-type weapon and followed behind with the old man. Half a day later, the middle-aged woman's flight-type weapon entered an ordinary-looking sacred Tao city. After wandering around the sacred Tao city for half an hour, the middle-aged woman brought Ningcheng into a small cave courtyard. Since the courtyard had restrictions that isolated spiritual consciousness, Ningcheng didn't use his spiritual consciousness to forcibly check it out. The middle-aged woman brought Ningcheng's trio to the guest hall and poured a cup of divine tea for each of them. She then said to Ningcheng, "Tao Lord Ning, I should salute you. You're the Tao Lord of Grand Essence Realm, and I'm a cultivator from Grand Essence Realm. I don't know if Tao Lord Ning knows me, but I'll introduce myself first. My name is Shi Qianxi, and I come from the 9 Revolutions Sacred Tao Pond. Maybe Tao Lord Ning guessed that I'm Qianghua's mother." Ningcheng quickly stood up. Although he had guessed that this middle-aged woman had a relationship with Qianghua, he didn't expect this woman to be Qianghua's mother. Seeing Shi Qianxi not moving, Ningcheng could only bow with cupped fists and say, "Ningcheng greet senior. Is Qianghua also here?" Shi Qianxi nodded. "Yes, Qianghua is here. But you have to listen to me first." Ningcheng held back the fluctuations in his heart and tried to speak in a slow tone. "Senior, please speak." Shi Qianxi looked at Ningcheng for a while and suddenly said, "Ever since I learned that Qianghua's purity had been ruined in her 9th life, I almost left the Grand Essence Realm to tear that person's body into 1,000 pieces. But I held back because I knew that if Qianghua didn't want to, no one in the lower realms could ruin her purity." Ningcheng's expression remained calm. He and Shi Qianghua did have some misunderstandings. Later, when the two got together, it was completely out of love and without any reluctance. Today, no matter what Shi Qianxi said, he would still take away Qianghua. "Later, when I learned that you were the person in Qianghua's heart in the Grand Essence Realm, I gave up on attacking you. Or at that time, I could no longer move you. After that, your status grew higher and higher. Not to mention me. Even the sect master of my 9 Revolutions Sacred Tao Pond couldn't do anything to you openly." Although Shi Qianxi's tone was calm, Ningcheng could still hear some unwillingness in it. Speaking till here, Shi Qianxi paused and deliberately looked at Ningcheng for a while before continuing. "To be honest, if not for other things, then you are the best choice for Qianghua. Qianghua's eyes are quite good. She did not misjudge a person. Senior, please let Qianghua come out and let me see her." Ningcheng finally could not help but make this request. Shi Qianxi acted as if she hadn't heard Ningcheng's words and spoke up calmly. "Tao Lord Ning, do you know what cultivation method my 9 Revolutions Sacred Tao Pond cultivates?" Ningcheng nodded. "I've heard about it, but I don't know much about it." Shi Qianxi didn't ask Ningcheng to answer. Instead, she took the initiative to explain. "My 9 Revolutions Sacred Tao Pond cultivates a cultivation method that is unique in the entire Grand Essence Realm. Tao Lord Ning might not like to hear it, but even your cultivation method might not be as good as my 9 Revolutions Sacred Tao Pond's cultivation method." Ningcheng didn't comment. He didn't need to argue about such things. He didn't believe that the 9 Revolutions Sacred Tao Pond's cultivation method could surpass his mysterious yellow formless. His mysterious yellow formless was a good fortune cultivation method. Unless the 9 Revolutions Sacred Tao Pond also had a good fortune treasure that derived a good fortune cultivation method. Even if the 9 Revolutions Sacred Tao Pond derived a good fortune cultivation method, it couldn't be stronger than the mysterious yellow formless. Only those with a good fortune treasure could cultivate the mysterious yellow formless. Otherwise, even if he gave the mysterious yellow formless to others, They could only look at it and not cultivate it. Shi Qianqi didn't know Ning Cheng's thoughts and still said, "My 9 Revolutions Sacred Tao Pond cultivates a cultivation method called the 9 Revolutions Sacred Tao Art." Tao Lord Ning might not know what's special about the 9 Revolutions Sacred Tao Art. But I believe that Tao Lord Ning should have heard of the 10 major spirit techniques, right? The reincarnation spirit technique, ranked 6th among the 10 major spirit techniques, requires one to cultivate the 9 Revolutions Sacred Tao Art. I heard that Tao Lord Ning has a spirit technique called the 7 Bridges. In fact, the 7 Bridges also contains the reincarnation bridge. It's just that the reincarnation spirit technique is slightly different from the reincarnation bridge of the 7 Bridges. Ning Cheng nodded. As far as I know, the real name shouldn't be the 10 major spirit techniques, but the 10 major cultivation methods. Of course, I only know 8 cultivation methods. Among them, the reincarnation technique isn't ranked 6th, but 4th. In fact, Ning Cheng sometimes wondered if the 4th one wasn't called the reincarnation technique, but the 7 Bridges. Just like the karma cultivation method, the reincarnation cultivation method was just a branch of the 7 Bridges cultivation method. Later, Ning Cheng dispelled this idea. He had already mastered 5 bridges of the 7 Bridges spirit technique. In fact, even the combined power of the first 5 bridges couldn't rank among the 10 major spirit techniques. Tao Lord Ning, you actually know about the 10 major cultivation methods? Shi Qianqi glanced at Ning Cheng in surprise. According to the common saying in the Grand Essence realm, it was the 10 major spirit techniques. However, very few people knew about the 10 major cultivation methods. I've heard a little about them, but I don't know much about them. Ning Cheng replied honestly. Shi Qianqi breathed a sigh of relief. Since Tao Lord Ning knows about the 10 major cultivation methods, then it would be easier for Tao Lord Ning to understand them. Although the 9 Revolutions Sacred Tao Art is powerful, no one in the 9 Revolutions Sacred Tao Pond has succeeded in cultivating this cultivation method, except for the first sect master. Even the old ancestor of the 9 Revolutions Sacred Tao Pond only managed to cultivate a pseudo-9 revolutions. Seemingly feeling the difficulty of the 9 Revolutions Sacred Tao Pond, Shi Qianqi sighed subconsciously. Cultivating the 9 Revolutions Sacred Tao Art is too difficult. The first step requires 9 reincarnations. Not only do you have to maintain a kind heart in each life, but you also have to maintain a pure body. This is just the most basic requirement. The more important requirement is that you must cultivate to the Tao sculpting realm or above in each life. Ning Cheng didn't speak. When it came to kindness, he believed in Qianghua. But to say that the women of the 9 Revolutions Sacred Tao Pond were kind, he couldn't help but chuckle. In his opinion, even the most poisonous poison couldn't compare to the group of women from the 9 Revolutions Sacred Tao Pond. If he hadn't seen the spirit transplant technique with his own eyes, he would have thought that Shi Qianqi was telling the truth. He didn't know if Shi Qianqi saw Ning Cheng's disdain, but she explained. Of course, kindness is only for those cultivators who want to undergo 9 reincarnations. Because every reincarnation, you don't know your origin at the beginning. Just like an ordinary person, you act according to your own heart. It's rare to maintain a kind heart for 9 reincarnations. Since the establishment of the 9 Revolutions Sacred Tao Pond, apart from the first sect master, only Qianghua has truly cultivated to 9 reincarnations. Ning Cheng interrupted Shi Qianqi's words and said with a stiff tone, Senior Shi, I know that Qianghua is your daughter, but she is also my wife. The implication was that Qianghua was already his wife in her 9th reincarnation, which didn't conform to the cultivation method of the 9 Revolutions Sacred Tao Art. If Shi Qianqi wanted to use this excuse to keep Qianghua, it would make him feel very uncomfortable. Shi Qianqi didn't feel surprised by Ning Cheng's words. Instead, she nodded. I know that Qianghua was your wife in her 9th reincarnation. What surprised me and the 9 Revolutions Sacred Tao Pond's old ancestor was that Qianghua came back in her 10th reincarnation. It stood to reason that she became Tao companions with you in her 9th reincarnation, and the 9 Revolutions Sacred Tao Art would no longer be fated with her. But the truth is that her 9 Revolutions Sacred Tao Art has lost its edge, and she has already completed the first step of cultivation. Not only that, but her body also carries the aura of the origin Tao. You can say that as long as there are no other problems, Qianghua has a great chance to step into the third step and walk through a realm that countless people can't even dream of reaching. Ningqing remained silent. He didn't doubt Shi Qianqi's words. He had the mysterious yellow bead, a good fortune treasure. Qianghua was his wife, and they had been husband and wife before. Even in her 9th reincarnation, it wasn't impossible for Qianghua to have the aura of the origin Tao after her reincarnation. Shi Qianqi looked at Ningqing sincerely and said, "The most difficult part of the 9 revolutions sacred Tao art is the first step. Once you pass the first step, it would be a smooth path to the Tao. If you really like Qianghua, I hope that you can wait until Qianghua reaches the third step of Tao confirming before getting together with her. Otherwise, Qianghua's 9 revolutions sacred Tao art will end here, and her Tao will also end here." How could Ningqing not understand Shi Qianqi's meaning? Waiting for Shi Qianghua to reach the third step of Tao confirming before getting together with her was a complete lie. Not to mention when Shi Qianghua could reach the third step of Tao confirming. Even if she knew how many years it would take for Shi Qianghua to reach the third step of Tao confirming. In Shi Qianqi's view, Ningqing was just a passerby in Qianghua's life. Seeing Ningqing not speaking and not showing any expression in his eyes, Shi Qianqi sighed again and said, "With your strength, it would be easy to take away Qianghua. If you really want to do so, I won't stop you." Big brother Ning. Ani, who sat next to Ningqing, called out in worry. Ningqing stood up. "I'm going to see Qianghua." She. Not waiting for Ningqing to finish his words, Shi Qianqi pointed to a room opposite them and said, "Qianghua lives across the street. She's also waiting for you. You can go." Ningqing signaled Ani not to worry and asked her and the old fart to wait here. He then stepped out of the room and landed at the door of the opposite room in just a few steps. "Is it Big Brother Ning? Please come in." Ningqing had just landed when the restriction at the door of the room opened, and a soft voice and Shi Qianghua's familiar face entered Ningqing's eyes. Beside Shi Qianghua was another beautiful woman in white robes. When she saw Ningqing standing at the door, she bowed to Ningqing and said, "You talk, I'll take my leave first." Ningqing looked at the familiar person in front of him and felt something stuck in his heart, making him unable to vent. A deep sense of remorse welled up inside him. In his opinion, Qianghua's accident was all because of him. Chapter 1243. Qianghua. Ningqing felt that his throat was a bit dry. Obviously Qianghua was in front of him, but he felt as if he had lost something. Shi Qianghua sighed, as she raised her hand to form a restriction and spoke, "Big brother Ning, please sit down." Ningqing did not sit down. Rather he took a deep breath and spoke. "Qianghua, did you forget what happened before? I heard Luofei say that if it weren't for you, she would have been killed by your younger sister. Since you still remember me, why do you make me feel like a stranger?" Shi Qianghua stared at Ningqing for a long time before she suddenly took out a jade strip and placed it in Ningqing's hands. "This is the 9 revolutions sacred Tao art that I cultivate. This cultivation method jade strip was given to me by my mother after I successfully completed the first step of the 9 revolutions sacred Tao art. In the history of the 9 revolutions sacred Tao pond, only the first sect master successfully cultivated the 9 revolutions sacred Tao art. The first sect master was my ancestor, and I was the second person to cross the hardest step of the 9 revolutions sacred Tao technique." The jade slip carried a trace of an ancient aura. It was obvious that it came from ancient times. Ningqing did not look at the jade strip in his hands, but rather put the jade strip on the table and spoke in a gentle tone. "Qianghua, you just have to tell me if you still have your memories?" Shi Qianghua nodded and spoke. "I still have my memories. No one has done anything to me. After cultivating the 9 revolutions sacred path technique for 9 reincarnations and completing the first step, it would sever all the grudges and emotions of the previous 9 lives. When I was in the everlasting sacred shrine, the first step had not yet been perfected, and I still retained the emotions from my previous life. Later, I used the soul concealment technique and fell into a coma. Just as I was about to die, my mother helped me obtain the purple Een divine spring bead. After I recovered, The first step of the 9 Revolutions Sacred Path technique was completed. I got rid of all the emotions from my previous 9 lives and only retained some important memories. You and I became husband and wife. This is an important memory to me, and I have kept it. No wonder you joined the Severing Emotions Dao sect. It turns out that there are traces of it here. Ningqing muttered to himself, as he felt extremely sad in his heart. What he wanted was not for Qianghua to retain her memories. Retaining her memories and cutting off her emotions. What was the difference between her and Suing Day? This is for you. Sure, Qianghua did not know what to say, as she took out a model copper coin and placed it in Ningqing's hands. 5 Elements Treasure Fall Copper Coin? Ningqing stared at the 5 Elements Treasure Fall copper coin in his hand, while his thoughts drifted back to a distant place. For the current him, this magic treasure was perhaps more of a souvenir. Shi Qianghua silently looked at Ningqing, but did not interrupt Ningqing's thoughts. Not knowing for how long, Ningqing finally placed the copper coin in Shi Qianghua's hands and spoke. Qianghua, this is something that I want to give to you. If you feel that you like it, then you can keep it with you. If you don't like it, just throw it away. Ningqing suddenly remembered that Tian Mu Wan had given his pearl hair clip to other people, and had even faked that other person's hand to throw it away, and could no longer speak a single word. Shi Qianghua grabbed the 5 Elements Treasure Fall copper coin and spoke softly, I will not throw it away. Even though I severed the emotions of my previous 9 lives because I successfully cultivated the 9 Revolutions Sacred Tao art, we can still start again. Ningqing looked up at Shi Qianghua in surprise, as he raised his hand and grabbed Shi Qianghua's hand, and spoke in a trembling voice. Qianghua, are you willing to come with me? Shi Qianghua did not break away from Ningqing's hand, as she looked at Ningqing and spoke in a soft voice. I'm sorry, big brother Ning, I cannot go with you. I have to take the 3rd step, and then, maybe I will come find you. Speaking till the end, Shi Qianghua did not have the confidence to continue. Did your mother also tell you this? Ningqing felt a sense of loss in his heart. Shi Qianghua remained silent for a while before nodding. Yes, my mother said that I can't go with you yet. If I go with you, the cultivation of my previous 9 lives would turn into bubbles. Since the founding of my 9 Revolutions Sacred Tao Pond, I am the only one who has the hope of finding the first sect master. My mother and the sect's old ancestor have placed great hopes on me. This is a major event related to my 9 Revolutions Sacred Tao Pond. So you are saying that you are willing to come with me? Ningqing looked at Shi Qianghua's eyes as he spoke one word at a time. Shi Qianghua silently looked at Ningqing, and after a while her eyes slowly softened. I have never had any thoughts about any man, but in my 9th life, I ended up marrying you. I think I must have used my life to fall in love with you. Even if I cut off the emotions of my 9 lives because of cultivation, I can't cut off this memory. Ningqing's feelings for Shi Qianghua disappeared without a trace. He no longer cared about Shi Qianghua being the sacred lady of the 9 Revolutions Sacred Tao Pond. He tightened his grip and pulled Shi Qianghua into his arms. Shi Qianghua's entire body trembled, before she unexpectedly no longer refused Ningqing's embrace. Instead, she quietly hugged Ningqing while her body instantly turned soft. My husband, if you want me now, then take me away. Ningqing suddenly pushed Shi Qianghua away, raised his hand, and dozens of hand seals fell onto Shi Qianghua's body. Ningqing forcibly sent several mysterious yellow origin auras into Shi Qianghua's body. Shi Qianghua's rapidly dissipating Dao charm once again condensed under Ningqing's hand seals. Ningqing wiped the blood from the corner of Shi Qianghua's mouth, clenched his fists and asked, Qianghua, what's going on? If it was the 9 Revolutions Sacred Tao Pond's doing, he would have immediately stepped back. Shi Qianghua's eyes turned gloomy. I don't blame others, it's the cultivation method I cultivate. After I successfully cultivated the 9 Revolutions Sacred Tao technique, I couldn't bear to cut off the bits and pieces of memories I had with you, so I secretly sealed them. Just now I felt excited, and my emotional seal broke. Ningqing raised his hand and grabbed the 9 Revolutions Sacred Tao technique jade strip that he had just put aside and swept it with his spiritual consciousness. In just a short time, he understood what was going on. During the 9th life of the 9 Revolutions Sacred Tao technique, one had to cut off all the memories and emotions of the previous 8 lives. Shi Qianghua had one more life, and she had successfully cultivated the 9 revolutions sacred Tao technique in her 10th life. Yet, she still dared to retain her emotional memories with him. This was simply courting death. If it weren't for the mysterious yellow origin aura and his powerful cultivation, Shi Qianghua would have already perished. If she retained her emotional memories, there was only one way to solve this hidden danger, and that was to step into the 3rd step. However, once the 9 revolutions sacred Tao technique entered the 3rd step, it would cut off all the sealed memories and emotions. In other words, even if Shi Qianghua actively retained her memories, the 9 revolutions sacred Tao technique's great Tao would also cut it off. At that time, he and Shi Qianghua would become complete strangers. Ningqing couldn't wait to crush this garbage cultivation method. It was such a difficult cultivation method to cultivate, yet the conditions to successfully cultivate it were so harsh. Did your mother bring you to the Grand Change realm to perfect your 9 revolutions sacred Tao technique? Ningqing calmed down. He knew that anger wouldn't solve any problems. Shi Qianghua nodded. And the first sect master of my 9 revolutions sacred Tao pond stepped into the 3rd step in the Grand Change realm. My mother brought me and my sister here to find the place where the first sect master stepped into the 3rd step, and let me stay there for secluded cultivation. Ningqing took in a deep breath. No wonder Shi Qianxi didn't care about him coming to see Shi Qianghua. It was because she knew that he couldn't take Shi Qianghua away. With Shi Qianghua by his side, the emotional seal would break again at any time. With the feelings between the two of them, not to mention that the emotional seal wouldn't be stable if they stayed together for too long, it would also be normal for the emotional seal to become unstable. As long as Shi Qianghua wasn't by his side, the influence of Shi Qianghua's memories wouldn't be too great. As Shi Qianghua's cultivation continued to deepen, the influence of her memories would also become weaker and weaker. It would also be normal for the Great Tao to cut off her memories after she stepped into the 3rd step. Maybe your mother and 9 revolutions sacred Tao ponds Shi Yiqing knew that you sealed the seal, but they deliberately didn't stop you. Ningqing felt powerless for the first time. If Shi Qianghua stayed by her mother's side, her cultivation would only grow stronger, and the influence of her memories would also weaken. If she stayed by his side, he wouldn't know what would happen in the end. Shi Qianghua wouldn't always have an accident in his arms. Once he left for a while, what would happen? Shi Qianghua shook her head. No, I sealed it myself, Seeing that Shi Qianghua was about to talk about something sad, Ningqing quickly stopped her from talking. Qianghua, you should cultivate behind your mother. One day, I will find a way to solve it. Ningqing made up his mind to not take Shi Qianghua away for the time being. Shi Qianghua shook her head and looked at Ningqing for a while before speaking. I'm afraid that if I really stepped into the 3rd step, I would no longer know who you are. It would be a lie if she didn't know who Ningqing was. Once Shi Qianghua stepped into the 3rd step, even if she knew who Ningqing was, she feared that the Great Tao would cut off her emotions and would no longer have any influence on her. Ningqing looked at Shi Qianghua and said, Qianghua, seal the emotional memories between us again. Just like what you told me before, since we can fall in love once, we can fall in love a second time. If you reach the 3rd step before I find a way, then let me chase after a 3rd step powerhouse as my wife. Shi Qianghua looked at Ningqing in silence. She suddenly believed that even if she reached the 3rd step one day, Ningqing could still make her fall in love with him. Qianghua, remember, there is a kind of love that doesn't enter the samsara, regardless of time and space. No matter how strong the Great Tao is, it cannot cut it off. If the Great Tao cuts off that love, then we can do it again. If the Great Tao blocks us from doing it again, then I will cut off that Great Tao. Although I don't have the strength now, one day, I will be able to do it. You have to believe in me. Ningqing looked into Shi Qianghua's eyes and spoke with a firm voice. Boom boom boom. Just as Ningqing's voice fell, several roars resounded in the air. It was as if some kind of Great Tao felt that Ningqing's words were too arrogant. All the people in the courtyard ran out and looked at the thunderous sky in horror, not knowing what had happened. Fortunately, the thunderous roars only lasted for a long time and did not slowly disappear. Shi Qianghua acted as if she did not hear the thunderous roars in the sky. After Ning Cheng finished speaking, she solemnly nodded and spoke. I believe in you. Chapter 1244. Ning Cheng left. He didn't continue to stay in the Grand Change realm. Before leaving, he put the 9 Dao suppression pagoda into a ring and gave it to Shi Qianghua. He had the everlasting Blue Thunder City and didn't need the 9 Dao suppression pagoda. The 5 elements treasure fall copper coin didn't have much use for Shi Qianghua, so he left the 9 Dao suppression pagoda for Shi Qianghua to slowly refine. With Di Wushuan's cultivation method, it wouldn't be surprising if he wanted to refine the 9 Dao suppression pagoda as soon as possible. But Qianghua was different. Ning Cheng hadn't figured out the cultivation method of the 9 Dao suppression pagoda yet, but he knew that a cultivation method that could derive the reincarnation spirit technique definitely wasn't simple. What's more, Qianghua didn't have a time limit for refining this pagoda. From the Grand Change realm to the Void City of the 5 realms, and then from the Void City to the closest teleportation array to the Grand Essence realm, Ning Cheng remained silent. He kept thinking about the Grand Dao cultivation method of the 9 revolutions sacred Dao technique. He didn't know if anyone had cultivated the reincarnation spirit technique, nor did he know the difference between the reincarnation spirit technique of the 7 bridges spirit technique and the reincarnation spirit technique of the 9 revolutions sacred Dao technique. But if the 9 revolutions sacred Dao technique was truly a branch of the reincarnation spirit technique, then this cultivation method must be a top-grade cultivation method. It wasn't until the old fogey controlled the starry sky wheel to fly towards the Grand Essence realm that Annie spoke up with worry. Big brother Ning, some things will be solved when the time comes. You don't have to worry about it. I'm most worried about the salvation adversity poison, one of the top 10 poisons in the world. When Ning Cheng heard An Yi's words, he immediately realized that he had neglected An Yi. An Yi, I'm sorry. I had something on my mind and didn't care about you. Ning Cheng apologetically said. He had wrapped up the salvation adversity poison and didn't have the time to detoxify it. An Yi shook her head. I'm fine. If you hadn't taken away my soul statue, I would have fallen into her hands. Does that person sense you once you're with your statue? Ning Cheng asked as he recalled the terrifying void suppression from before. And he nodded. Yes, once I get close to my soul statue, I would be sensed. After you left the Yixing mainland, did you still go to the place where your statue was located? Ning Cheng recalled what An Yi had said before, that she had once gone to the place where her statue was located. And he quietly said, when I was rescued, I knew that it was you who saved me, big brother Ning. That Temple of Fallen Stars is very dangerous, and I am afraid that big brother Ning might encounter an accident in order to save me, which is why I rushed there in a hurry. Fortunately, big brother Ning had already taken away my statue, so that I did not fall into her hands again. Who the hell is she? Ning Cheng's heart was filled with a trace of killing intent. An Yi was such a kind and gentle person. Yet that person stripped away a trace of her spiritual soul and integrated it into a statue in the Temple of Fallen Stars. It was obviously to suppress something. This method was not much different from suppressing monsters in the underground abyss. An Yi shook her head and said, I don't know. I only know that she was very beautiful. She was sitting on a lotus pedestal. The lotus pedestal seemed to be missing 3 petals. She wants to suppress the 2 pillars, and I'm not the only one suppressing the 2 pillars. I'm just suppressing the void of the eternal night domain's interface. I've seen those 2 pillars. Ning Cheng immediately spoke up. He remembered the 2 pillars they had passed before entering the Temple of Fallen Stars with Song Qingbua. Now that he had advanced to the primordial chaos realm, his knowledge was completely different from before. As such, he did not know what these 2 pillars were. Then can you merge with the spiritual soul in your statue now? Ning Cheng planned to look at the 2 pillars when he had the time. But now he was worried about An Yi's spiritual soul. If An Yi's spiritual soul was incomplete, her cultivation would definitely stagnate. No, once I get close to my statue, she will immediately find my position. An Yi shook her head. Ning Cheng smiled. It doesn't matter. Open up your consciousness and follow me. An Yi was completely defenseless against Ning Cheng. After listening to Ning Cheng's words, she did not hesitate to open up her consciousness. Ning Cheng waved his hand and brought an E into the mysterious yellow bead. Big brother Ning, is this your world? It's so beautiful. Annie looked at the vast world of the mysterious yellow bead and exclaimed. Then she saw the statue not far from her, and the feeling of connecting with her soul made it difficult for her to breathe. She knew that as long as she wanted, she could complete her soul at any time. Thinking of this, Annie subconsciously looked up at the sky. Ning Cheng, who was standing on the side, smiled and spoke. You don't have to worry, this is my territory. Even if the person who stripped your soul was strong, she would not be able to penetrate my world. Is your world not in the universe? Annie blurted out in shock. In her opinion, as long as she was in the universe, that person would be able to sense her. In her eyes, the strength of that person had already surpassed everything. Ning Cheng spoke with certainty. You don't have to worry, no one can come into my world. Without my permission, no one can touch it. You can rest assured that you can merge with your soul here, and then improve your strength. Annie still shook her head. Big brother Ning, I still can't merge with my soul. My Tao essence cultivation method was given to me by her. Once I merge with my soul, my strength will definitely cross over to the second step. Once my strength crosses over to the second step, the Tao charm will soon be captured by her. Ning Cheng frowned slightly, and after a few minutes he spoke. Then you should change your cultivation method. I can help you derive a cultivation method. Annie walked up to the statue and gently stroked her statue. After a while, she spoke in a soft voice. The cultivation method that I originally cultivated is very strong. If the new cultivation method is not as good as the original cultivation method, it would directly backfire on me, and I would not be able to change my cultivation method. Ning Cheng smiled. You don't have to worry. Even if I don't help you derive a cultivation method, the cultivation method that I take out will not be any weaker than the one she gave you. Have you ever heard of a karma cultivation method? Annie looked at Ning Cheng in amazement. Big brother Ning, you have a karma cultivation method, which is ranked third among the top 10 cultivation methods. Naturally, it far surpasses the cultivation method that I originally cultivated. Moreover, this karma cultivation method has the Tao sense to dissolve karma, which is the most suitable cultivation method for the current me. That's good. Ning Cheng took out 4 ancient jade strips and a ring and put them in Annie's hand. These are the 4 branches of the karma cultivation method. This ring contains the cultivation resources that you need. You can go ahead and cultivate them. Annie's words were the same as Shi Qianxi's. Ning Cheng didn't care about whether it was one of the top 8 cultivation methods or the top 10 cultivation methods. The old fogey also said that he didn't know. For him, as long as he cultivated the top cultivation method, it would be fine. Big brother Ning, the salvation adversity poison in you. Annie didn't feel surprised because she got the cultivation method she should have. Instead, she still worried about the salvation adversity poison in Ning Cheng. You can cultivate, but I also need to detoxify it. You know that I'm a primordial chaos pill saint with my own good fortune world. This poison can't stop me. Ning Cheng spoke with certainty to reassure Annie. Annie knew that even if she worried, she couldn't help Ning Cheng. The most important thing right now was for her to integrate with her soul as soon as possible and improve her strength. Just a month later, the old fogey came to call Ning Cheng. Senior, we've reached the outside of the Grand Essence realm. Ning Cheng sighed and walked out of the inner cabin of the starry sky wheel. Over the past month, he had deduced a preliminary detoxification plan for the salvation adversity poison. He needed something that could decompose and corrode spiritual consciousness, and only the illusory sea-crossing crystal could do this. In addition, he also needed a divine grass that could not only stop the dissipating Tao charm, but also condense the Tao charm at the same time. Ning Cheng had read about the universe vegetation and knew that the stainless water could do this. Whether it was the illusory sea-crossing crystal or the stainless water, they were both extremely rare things. Compared to the void dewdrops, these things weren't any easier to obtain. Ning Cheng had only seen them in the universe vegetation. He had participated in many auctions and visited various makeshift merchant houses, but he had never seen or heard of these two materials. If it were an ordinary person, these two materials would be enough to drive them into despair. But what made people even more desperate was that Ningcheng also deduced that to refine the detoxification pill, apart from these two main materials, he also needed one more thing. That was the bestowing lawless fruit. Ningcheng knew the preciousness of the bestowing lawless fruit better than anyone else. It was a treasure of the Blue True Hope tribe, and even he might not be able to obtain it. Fortunately, he had some friendship with a Li of the Blue True Hope tribe. He even gave the Blue True Hope tribe's imperial jade seal to a Li. He had heard that it was the Blue True Hope tribe's ancient desolate wish butterfly. Originally, he thought that he would never have a chance to meet a Li again. But now, for the sake of his life, he had to enter the land of broken laws again. Seeing Ningcheng put away the starry sky wheel and not seeing an E, the old fogey didn't speak any nonsense. It would have been strange if a senior like Ningcheng didn't have a top-grade world. Even for him, the heaven and earth cauldron had formed a world of its own. Let's go. Ningcheng called out to the old fogey, and landed at the entrance of the Grand Essence Realm's defensive array. Greetings, Dao Monarch, Dao Monarch. As soon as Ningcheng appeared, the cultivators outside the Grand Essence Realm's protective array immediately recognized Ningcheng, and came over to greet him. Although Ningcheng didn't appear often, Ningcheng's prestige in the Grand Essence Realm was unmatched. The old fogey followed behind Ningcheng, feeling very proud in his heart. He felt that he had a good vision, following behind his seniors and occasionally helping them fight. How could he, an expired heavenly emperor, compare to such glory? Dao Monarch is back. Li Feng had already rushed out with a group of people, and even Chu Manhe had followed them. Chu Manhe was in the Dao Perfection realm, and it would be difficult for her to make any progress in a short time. As soon as Ningcheng came back, she received the news and followed him. When Ningcheng saw half of the 10 court pillars arrive, he quickly greeted everyone one by one. Dao Monarch Ningcheng looks even more elegant than before. The prosperity of the Grand Essence Realm is only a matter of time. After Ningcheng finished greeting everyone, a man squeezed in the corner came forward and congratulated Ningcheng with cupped fists. So it's Xiao Hutting. Long time no see, long time no see. Ningcheng chuckled and pretended to have just seen him and greeted him politely. A Dao Perfection powerhouse like Xiao Qiandong, Ningcheng had already noticed him the moment he arrived. Ningcheng didn't have much interest in pretending to be polite to someone like Xiao Qiandong, who only cared about benefits. Moreover, Ningcheng knew the purpose of this guy's visit. He just wanted to invite him to Heavens Beyond to set up a teleportation array. If Ningcheng didn't know about the intricate forces in Heavens Beyond, he might have reluctantly set it up casually. Now Ningcheng knew that Li Jianqing in the Great Beginning Realm was dreaming. If he wanted to be more practical, he would go to Heavens Beyond to occupy a piece of territory first, just like him. Chapter 1245. After exchanging pleasantries, Xiao Qiandong didn't even wait for Ningcheng to return to Heaven Essence Sacred City's Dao Court before speaking up. Dao Lord Ning promised to arrange a few teleportation arrays for my Taichu Dao Court. But because Dao Lord was busy, I didn't dare disturb you. Now that I'm finally free, I hope that Dao Lord Ning will take the trouble. Without waiting for Xiao Qiandong to finish, Ningcheng gave out a sigh. Xiao Hutting, I originally planned to go to Absolute Beginning to arrange a teleportation array for Dao Monarch Li. However, when I passed by the Great Change Realm, I learned that the Great Change Realm's underground abyss was overflowing with demonic creatures. Although the Great Change Realm has invaded my Great Simplicity Realm, how can I watch so many innocent people fall into the hands of the devils? I stayed in the Great Change Realm, and worked together with Xingwen Realm Lord and the others to kill the devils. Fortunately, we were able to suppress the demon and seal it again. Unfortunately, I was poisoned by the Saha adversity poison. What? Not only was Xiao Qiandong shocked, even Li Feng and the others were looking at Ningcheng in shock. What was the Shore Calamity poison? This was one of the 10 most notorious poisons in the world. Just think about the vein bone poison that had tortured Kong Xiushan to death. The Shore Adversity poison was even more terrifying than the vein bone poison, because it had no antidote. Ningcheng might be a pill sage, but he could also refine Dao detoxification pills. But you also need to have medicinal ingredients for you to refine. No matter how good a chef is, it would be useless if there is no rice to cook. Xiao Qiandong took a deep breath and asked in disbelief. You've really been poisoned by the salvation adversity poison? Ningqing nodded cautiously. When I was poisoned by the sorrow poison, Xingwen Realm Lord and many others saw it. Dao friend Xiao doesn't have to go to Grand Change City. You can ask around in the 5 Realms Void City. If I don't find a way to detoxify the poison, I'm afraid I'll die before I reach the absolute beginning. Please forgive me, Xiao Hutting. At that time, Xiao Qiandong had been a two-faced hypocrite, but Ningqing did not mind playing a hypocrite with him. Not to mention the fact that he was still poisoned. Even if the poison was cured, he would not go to absolute beginning to help. That would be courting death. Since Ningqing had spoken to this point, even if Xiao Qiandong was not tactful, he could only take his leave. Ningqing, are you really poisoned? Chu Manhe couldn't help but ask as soon as Xiao Qiandong left. Ningqing gave a heavy nod. That's right, I was indeed poisoned. I came back to see if there's anything else. If there's nothing important, I'll probably go out to find the antidote. But there's no cure for the sorrow poison. Li Feng spoke out in worry. Among all the court pillars, he was the one who cared about Ningqing the most. Court Lord Li, don't worry. I know what I'm doing. The Saha disaster poison can't do anything to me for now. I can suppress it. I wonder how the battle with the demon vein is going? When Ningqing left, the Taisu Dao court and the demon vein were still fighting. Although he knew that the Taisu Dao court would definitely win, he did not know the result yet. Phoenix Li hurriedly explained. Dao Lord Proud Dance of the monster lineage battled against fellow Daoist Chu. Dao Lord Proud Dance voluntarily retreated and paid the price. As long as you don't enter the deepest part of the demon vein, the Grand Essence Domain's cultivators can directly cross the demon vein. Ningqing nodded. The existence of demon veins was necessary. Only through competition and baptism of blood could the Grand Essence realm continue to grow. The demonic beasts of the Grand Essence Sea and the demonic beasts of the demon vein were essential factors for the existence of the Grand Essence realm. By the way, Dao Lord Proud Dance invited you to visit the demon vein. She said that she has something to discuss with you. Phoenix Li spoke up again. Chu Manhe also spoke up. Proud Dance is very powerful. If I fight with all my might, I might not be able to stop her. No one cared about Ningqing advancing from Dao Essence to Dao Origin Realm in just one trip. They had long since become numb to Ningqing's cultivation speed. Ningqing pondered for a moment before saying, I'll go back to the Grand Essence Mountain first, and then leave the Grand Essence Realm. Are you looking for a cure for the sorrow poison? Chu Manhe asked worriedly. Too many people knew about the sorrow poison, so Ningqing didn't bother to hide it. Yes, I'm going to detoxify it. As for meeting Proud Dance, I'll push it back. Ningqing cared about the Grand Essence Realm, but he couldn't ignore his own life and death. He could suppress the sorrow poison now, but it was still one of the top 10 poisons in the world. Moreover, it was one of the top 10 poisons without a cure. If he couldn't suppress it one day, wouldn't he just be waiting for death? The first place he wanted to go after returning was the land of broken laws to look for the bestowing lawless fruit. After finding the bestowing lawless fruit, he would immediately head to the mysterious yellow heavens beyond to look for the mirage sea crystal and stainless water along the way. He also planned to ask Cheng Hotian to help him find these two things. He knew that these two things couldn't be placed in the Grand Essence realm. Such extremely rare top-grade treasures could only appear in the mysterious yellow heavens beyond. Ningqing was poisoned, and the Grand Essence Dao Court didn't have any major issues. Naturally, no one came to waste Ningqing's time. Ningqing, Chu Manhe, and the old fogey returned directly to the Grand Essence Mountain. The old fogey knew that the Grand Essence Mountain was Ningqing's residence. Coupled with the beautiful environment and abundant spiritual qi, he immediately asked Ningqing for a mountain peak and settled down here. The old fogey knew about Ningqing's search for the 5 Earths. Moreover, Ningqing was a Dao Lord of the Grand Essence Dao Court. How could he not guess that Ningqing wanted to repair the Grand Essence Realm? Regardless of whether Ningqing could repair the Grand Essence Realm or not, he had no intention of leaving this place. Ning Ruoqing and Ning Ruolin were still in seclusion. Therefore, When Ji Luofei learned that Ning Cheng had returned, she immediately stopped cultivating. After learning that Ning Cheng was poisoned by the Salvation Adversity poison, she couldn't wait to go out with Ning Cheng to find the antidote. But thinking that Ning Ruolin and Ning Ruoqing were both in the Grand Essence Mountain, Ji Luofei resisted the idea of going out with Ning Cheng. Ning Cheng stayed in the Grand Essence Mountain for a day before leaving the Grand Essence Realm. Yi was still in the process of fusing with her spirit soul, and even had to change her cultivation method. Therefore, she could only stay in the mysterious Yellow Bead, Land of Broken Laws. This was Ning Cheng's second time coming here. The first time, he had been chased by Man Huishan, and escaped with the help of the Land of Broken Laws. But this time, he specifically came to the Land of Broken Laws to look for the bestowing lawless fruit. As soon as Ning Cheng entered the Land of Broken Laws, he felt a suppression without any laws. Here his spiritual consciousness instantly weakened to the lowest level, and even his Dao charm aura felt restrained. Unlike when he was in the Eternal Realm, Ning Cheng's spiritual consciousness could sweep out without any hindrance. This was because his great Dao had long since surpassed ordinary Dao fusion powerhouses, and formed his own Law Dao charm. Law spirit techniques couldn't be used in the Land of Broken Laws. But for Ning Cheng, who already had an embryonic form of the Dao of returning to one, he could still use his law spirit techniques here. It's just that the power would drop without limit. For Ning Cheng, the speed of a starry sky battleship was just too slow. At his level, he didn't need a starry sky battleship to travel through the Land of Broken Laws. In just a dozen days, Ning Cheng once again arrived outside the canyon of the Blue True Hope tribe. This time, he mainly came here to look for the bestowing lawless fruit. Even if he passed through the Valley of Peace, he didn't bother to go in and take a look. Ning Cheng had come here once before, and he knew that the Blue True Hope tribe's territory lay beyond this canyon. If he were still in the Eternal Realm, Ning Cheng would never have dared to cross the canyon like this. At that time, he had risked his life to steal the bestowing lawless fruit. If it weren't for Ali's help, he would have fallen into Lan Bing's hands a second time. Lan Bing was beautiful to the extreme, but also vicious to the extreme. Ning Cheng believed that the Blue True Hope tribe wouldn't pose too much of a threat to him right now. Therefore, he still walked into the canyon with extreme caution. In this place, his strength was suppressed to less than 1/10,000th. Therefore, he had to be careful. Not to mention the vicious Lan Bing, even the Blue True Hope tribe statue plaza was a bit strange. Lan Bing's chanting not only suppressed a cultivator's spiritual consciousness, but it could also release an attack. Ning Cheng estimated that with his body-refining strength, even if Lan Bing attacked him, it wouldn't cause any fatal injuries. However, the Blue True Hope tribe was a bit strange. Who knew if they had other killing moves? It wasn't the first time Ning Cheng had seen a boat capsized in a ditch. Any race that was able to survive would definitely have their own means. Despising these races would only lead to death. Ning Cheng would never underestimate the Blue True Hope tribe, just because he had the strength to deal with Dao perfection experts. Passing through the canyon, Ning Cheng only saw one or two unfamiliar Hope tribesmen standing guard beside the statue in the plaza. Compared to the last time he came here, this place looked even colder. Ning Cheng's gaze suddenly fell in front of the statue, and he couldn't even believe his eyes. Ali knelt in front of the statue with her upper body naked, and seemed to be praying devoutly. No, Ning Cheng quickly saw that Ali wasn't praying, but was imprisoned in front of the statue. Ning Cheng immediately thought of Lan Bing. This woman had imprisoned his essence spirit in front of the statue to worship. Now, it seemed that she had placed Ali here to worship. Unlike him back then, Ali was imprisoned here along with her corporeal body. Ning Cheng clearly remembered that this beautiful woman, Ali, was Lan Bing's aunt and seemed to be the previous queen. If this was done by Lan Bing, then this woman was too vicious. After just a few breaths, Ning Cheng knew that he had guessed correctly. It was indeed done by Lan Bing. His spiritual consciousness swept into Lan Bing's room, and saw Lan Bing sitting on the pink bed, stroking her eyebrows. There was a butterfly-shaped mark between her eyebrows. A familiar aura arrived, causing Ning Cheng to suspect that the butterfly imprint was actually his imperial jade seal. But he had given the hope-powered jade seal to Ali, so why was it with Lan Bing? If Ali had given his jade seal to Lan Bing, then Lan Bing wouldn't have imprisoned Ali in front of the statue, right? Ning Cheng's spiritual consciousness once again fell on the butterfly mark and confirmed that he wasn't mistaken. This butterfly mark was the aura of his jade seal. When Ning Cheng's spiritual consciousness swept past Lan Bing seemed to feel something and suddenly raised her head to look in Ning Cheng's direction. Ning Cheng quickly retracted his spiritual consciousness. He felt that the Blue True Hope tribe wasn't simple. Chapter 1246. Knowing that Lan Bing could even sense his spiritual consciousness, Ning Cheng didn't continue to use his spiritual consciousness to check on Lan Bing. He decided to steal the bestowing lawless fruit first. Once he obtained it, he would come back to save Ali. As for Lan Bing, he didn't intend to do anything to her in the Blue True Hope tribe's lair. If this woman dared to chase after him, he would kill her directly. The Blue True Hope tribe's lair was a bit strange, especially the statue. Now that his cultivation was suppressed and the poison had yet to be cured, he couldn't let anything go wrong. After waiting for a few minutes, Ning Cheng didn't see Lan Bing come out. So, he circled around the square where the statue was located. What made Ning Cheng frown was that he didn't see the two trees like last time. Since he couldn't see the two trees, he couldn't find the location of the bestowing lawless fruit. The last time he came here, he had arranged a temporary teleportation array. But this time there was no teleportation array. From the looks of it, he could only find the two hidden trees to enter the location of the bestowing lawless fruit. Although there were no laws here and his spiritual consciousness was suppressed, Ning Cheng wasn't worried about not being able to find the place. If he couldn't find this concealment array with his attainments in the Tao of Arrays, then no one in the Grand Essence realm would be able to find it. Ning Cheng took out a few array flags and carefully threw them out. In less than half an incense stick worth of time, the two hidden giant trees appeared in front of Ning Cheng. Ning Cheng put away the array flags without hesitation, and before the two giant trees could hide themselves again, he disappeared into the giant trees. A place filled with all kinds of broken laws appeared in front of Ning Cheng. Ning Cheng wasn't unfamiliar with this place. He had come here once before. The last time he came here, he had followed Joey to help the Blue True Hope tribe kill the enemies, but the result was disappointing. If it weren't for him being a body-refining powerhouse, Lan Bing would have killed him back then. Lan Bing, this woman, had no gratitude in her eyes, only benefits. With her temperament, snatching her aunt's jade seal and imprisoning her aunt to worship the statue, she was completely capable of doing such a thing. After Ning Cheng stopped, his spiritual consciousness swept out a little further, and found that the white mist still lingering around it was still there. Ning Cheng's figure flashed and disappeared into it. Just like the last time, Ning Cheng only saw two ripple-like grapefruits. The number was far less than the last time. He didn't know if they were hidden in another location or not. This gray fruit-like spiritual sense couldn't penetrate it, and it looked incomparably illusory. Without any hesitation, Ning Cheng took out two jade boxes, and put the two bestowing lawless fruits into the jade boxes. With Ning Cheng's strength, even if his spiritual consciousness was suppressed, he would still be extremely cautious in doing these things. Even so, as soon as he put away the two bestowing lawless fruits, the white mist around him suddenly dissipated, and the next moment, his whole body was exposed. An even more terrifying heaven and earth suppressive strength descended upon him. In just a breath of time, his divine sense rapidly shrank. Ning Cheng felt shocked. In just one or two breaths, his strength would fall to the point where he couldn't even compare to an eternal cultivator. This Blue True Hope tribe really is a bit strange. His great Tao was solid, and his sea of consciousness was strong. That was why he was able to react when his strength was suppressed into nothingness. If it were someone else, they might not even be able to escape. Ning Cheng was extremely decisive. In this kind of suppression, the first thing he did was to go around the two hidden giant trees. His cultivation was suppressed to the extreme, but his array Tao level was still there. He had just broken this top-grade concealment array not too long ago, so it didn't take him much effort to get out. Ning Cheng had just walked out of the two giant trees when he heard a sharp cry coming from behind. He was familiar with this voice. It was Lan Bing. If it weren't for this place being too strange, he would have killed Lan Bing with a single slap. With the bestowing lawless fruits in hand, and two at that, Ning Cheng naturally wouldn't stay here any longer. He rushed directly to the public square, where the statue was located. But before Ning Cheng could leave with Ali, who was worshipping on the public square, the same terrifying pressure descended. Ning Cheng's spiritual consciousness continued to fall sharply, and even his spirit essence was suppressed. At this moment, Ning Cheng wasn't in the mood to care about these things. With a wave of his hand, he broke through the power of hope restriction imprisoning Ali and rushed out of the canyon with Ali. Just as Ning Cheng left, Lan Bing landed on the public square. She looked in the direction where Ning Cheng disappeared in shock, her whole body trembling. She wasn't just angry but also afraid. Under the double suppression of the Blue True Hope tribe statue in the land of broken laws and her, the king, the other party could break through the power of hope and take away a person. Just how terrifying was his strength? With such strength, not to mention snatching away two bestowing lawless fruits and taking away a person, he might even be able to destroy the entire lair of her Blue True Hope tribe. After understanding this, Lan Bing no longer dared to chase after him. Here, she could still call herself a king, but once she went out, facing such a powerhouse she Lan Bing wouldn't even count as an ant. The Blue True Hope tribe couldn't stay here. They had to move again. This was Lan Bing's only thought. She subconsciously looked up at the increasingly dim statue of the Blue True Hope tribe. She thought that after finding the ancient desolate hope butterfly, it would only be a matter of time before the Blue True Hope tribe grew stronger in her hands. But now, it seemed that things weren't that simple. As for her Aunt Ali being taken away, she didn't think much about it. Her Aunt Ali worshipped in the public square with her upper body bare. Only she could compare to her beauty in the entire Blue True Hope tribe. Any male cultivator who came here would probably want to take her back and serve her. After Ning Cheng walked out of the canyon, he slowed down. He had no intention of escaping at all. If Lan Bing dared to chase after him, he wouldn't mind teaching this woman a lesson. He didn't believe that Lan Bing would be able to suppress his strength indefinitely once he left the Blue True Hope tribe's territory, like she did inside. Looking for a flat place, Ning Cheng put Ali on the ground. Ali remained unconscious, as if she had fallen into an endless sleep. Even if Ning Cheng removed the shackles on her, she still remained unconscious. Ning Cheng had come into contact with the power of hope, and could vaguely feel that Ali was constantly using her vitality and spirit soul to worship a wish. Ning Cheng didn't need to ask to know that this was Lan Bing's doing. If Ning Cheng still had the same cultivation as the last time he came here, he could only watch helplessly in the face of such a situation. But now, even in the land of broken laws, Ning Cheng didn't care about the shackles of the power of hope. He raised his hand and placed hundreds of handprints on Ali's body again, causing the loss of Ali's life force and power of hope to gradually weaken. Her spirit, which had been worshipping for a long time, also slowly stabilized. When Ning Cheng put 2 medicinal pills into Ali's mouth, she finally woke up. Ning Cheng took out a robe and put it on her without saying anything. He could tell that Ali had been worshipping the statue here for many years now. If he had come a year or two later, Ali would have become a soulless person forever worshipping the statue. "It's you, Ning Cheng?" Ali recognized Ning Cheng and struggled to stand up. Her face was pale, and her vitality was so fragile that it could dissipate at any moment. Ning Cheng sighed and said, "It's me. How did you end up like this? Did Lan Bing imprison you and make you worship the Blue True Hope tribe statue?" Ali looked back at the canyon not far away and looked at Ning Cheng in panic. "Did you kill Lan Bing? Did you destroy the Blue True Hope tribe?" Ning Cheng shook his head. "Not yet, but I can help you take revenge. As long as I'm ready, I can easily kill Lan Bing." Ning Cheng wasn't bragging. He had almost been imprisoned by the Hope tribe's power of hope in the middle of the public square. Now he had to go in from the outside. Using an array formation to break in, and being imprisoned inside were two different things. "Don't!" Ali quickly cried out. After that, she looked at Ning Cheng in panic. "Please don't destroy the Blue True Hope tribe. It's not easy for the Hope tribe to survive to this day. Ali only attacked me for the sake of the Hope tribe. I'm sorry, but the ancient desolate hope butterfly you gave me." Not waiting for Ali to finish, Ning Cheng spoke up in a calm voice. "I know. Since I gave it to you, it's yours. Did she discover the ancient desolate wish butterfly on your body? and made a move on you to snatch it away? Ali nodded. My Blue True Hope tribe is a grateful race. The reason we can survive until now is because of gratitude. Lan Bing's heart is too cruel and her temperament is too cold. I don't think she's suitable to lead my Blue True Hope tribe, so I didn't plan to give her the ancient desolate hope butterfly. Just when I was about to leave here and go out to find a suitable king for my Blue True Hope tribe, she learned that I had the ancient desolate hope butterfly. You know what happened next? This woman is too vicious. I'm sure that the Blue True Hope tribe would perish in her hands. What are you going to do now? Do you still want to go back? Ningqing asked. If Ali wanted to go back, Ningqing would never stop her. Everyone had their own beliefs, and Ali was willing to dedicate her life to the Blue True Hope tribe. Ningqing didn't have many words to persuade her. Besides, he still couldn't figure out why he was poisoned. Ali looked at the canyon for a while before slowly shaking her head. My power of hope and life have all been handed over to the statue. From now on, I'm no longer a member of the Blue True Hope tribe. Since you don't want to go back, then come out with me. I don't have anything else here, but I have a lot of cultivation methods. Ningqing waved his hand and said. He didn't have the slightest good impression of the Blue True Hope tribe. As for taking away the two bestowing lawless fruits, he didn't feel even the slightest bit of remorse. The ancient desolate hope butterfly was the Blue True Hope tribe's premier treasure. Moreover, the ancient desolate hope butterfly that Lan Bing snatched away belonged to him. He had given it to Ali, not Lan Bing. Ali suddenly knelt on the ground. Ali is willing to worship you as a master. Please, master. Ningqing looked at Ali in a daze. I'm younger than you. How can I be your master? Ali's eyes looked a little bleak, but she didn't speak. Ningqing immediately understood what she meant. Ali had always stayed in the Blue True Hope tribe. Now that she came out of the Blue True Hope tribe, she had neither the power of hope nor any cultivation. One could say that she wasn't even as good as an ordinary person. If she was sent to any place, with her appearance, the only chance she had was to become someone's plaything and die. Therefore, she wanted to worship him as a master to find someone to rely on. Chapter 1247. Ningqing thought for a moment, and then said, giving you the cultivation method does not mean that I have to be your master. How can I accept disciples when I haven't reached the great Tao? However, you don't have to worry. I plan to open an alchemy and weapon pavilion in a place called Heavens Beyond. You can stay there and cultivate while helping me look after the alchemy and weapon pavilion. Ali is willing. Ali was worried that Ningqing would leave her in a random place and let her fend for herself. If that was the case, it wouldn't make much difference whether she went out or not. Ningqing, on seeing that Lan Bing didn't intend to chase after them, didn't plan to go back in and directly took Ali away. Big brother Ning, if it weren't for you, I'm afraid that I would have been suppressed under the statue of the ancient desolation wish butterfly for all eternity before finally perishing. Seeing that Ningqing didn't intend to destroy the Blue True Hope tribe, Ali also felt slightly relieved. Although she had now decided to separate herself from the Blue True Hope tribe, she was still a member of the Blue True Hope tribe, and even a king at that. Ali, just call me Ningqing from now on. By the way, what exactly is the power of hope that the Blue True Hope tribe cultivates? Although Ningqing didn't know anything about the power of hope, he still didn't understand much about the mysterious Blue True Hope tribe. Ali remained silent. Seeing this, Ningqing quickly spoke up. If it's not convenient for you to say it, then you don't have to say it. I don't have much interest in understanding your Blue True Hope tribe. Ali shook her head. It's not that it's inconvenient, I just don't know where to start. In the future, I will no longer be a member of the Blue True Hope tribe. In fact, the reason why the Blue True Hope tribe became the Hope tribe was only because of the relationship between their cultivation method and the power of hope. The Blue True Hope tribe doesn't cultivate spirit essence or spiritual consciousness. Instead, they only cultivate the power of hope. The Blue True Hope tribe's cultivation method is called the life of predestined hope. A long time ago, our Hope tribe also called this cultivation method the art of destiny. Actually, after cultivating for so long, he had already lost a lot of his predestined wishes. I heard that a long time ago, Fate of Fate didn't just cultivate wish power. It could also cultivate divine sense and divine essence like Dharma cultivators. Fate magic? Ningqing couldn't help but feel shocked when he heard this. To be honest, he really didn't put the cultivation method practiced by the Blue True Hope tribe in his eyes. It was a cultivation method that could only rely on absorbing the power of prayers from others. Even if cultivated to the extreme, it would still rely on the power of hope from prayers. Ali's words indicated that the cultivation method cultivated by the Blue True Hope tribe had an extraordinary origin. It was most likely the fate cultivation method, ranked second among the 8 major cultivation methods mentioned by that old fogey. Perhaps the fate of fate was a branch of the fate cultivation technique. Ningqing swept away his previous indifference and sighed. Ali, it looks like I underestimated your Blue True Hope tribe before. The Blue True Hope tribe cultivates the art of destiny, and its origin is no small matter. But why did they lose part of it later? Ali shook his head and said, I don't know much about these things. I only became the king by chance. In fact, I don't have the pure bloodline of the Blue True Hope tribe. In other words, my Hope tribe's bloodline isn't pure. I heard that I'm just a bastard. The Blue True Hope tribe withered, and the elders of the tribe could only let me barely become the king. After Lan Bing was found, I took the initiative to abdicate the throne. How do you distinguish the bloodlines? Ningqing felt puzzled. Although the Blue True Hope tribe had many men, he didn't see any pairs of Dao companions. Ali understood Ningqing's meaning and replied, the Blue True Hope tribe is a matriarchal race, and men have no status. Moreover, the king must be extremely beautiful and have a pure bloodline. Only then can one cultivate the fate of fate cultivation method. But even so, the Blue True Hope tribe's art of destiny gradually disappeared. I heard that a long time ago, the Blue True Hope tribe cultivated to the extreme and could control destiny. As for using the power of hope, it's just a means. Ali had stayed in the Blue True Hope tribe for a long time, so her knowledge naturally couldn't compare to Ningqing. Hearing this, Ningqing had a rough guess. The Blue True Hope tribe cultivated the art of destiny. The power of hope was just a spirit technique among the art of destiny. The real art of destiny eventually disappeared, but this spirit technique remained and became the main cultivation method of the Blue True Hope tribe. Ningqing suddenly thought of the 9 Revolutions Sacred Dao Pond. The 9 Revolutions Sacred Dao Pond cultivated the 9 Revolutions Sacred Dao art, which also had something to do with the samsara of destiny. More importantly, the 9 Revolutions Sacred Dao Pond was a matriarchal inheritance. He didn't know if the 9 Revolutions Sacred Dao Pond had anything to do with the Blue True Hope tribe. But the next time he met Shi Yiqing, he would have to ask her about it. More than 10 days later, Ningqing left the land of broken laws with Ali. After sending Ali into the mysterious yellow bead for cultivation, Ningqing brought out the starry sky wheel and hurried on with his journey. Although he had suppressed the salvation adversity poison, it was still a big hidden danger. This time, he didn't stay in the Grand Essence realm for long because he wanted to get rid of the salvation adversity poison. Ningqing's control over the starry sky wheel was a level faster than the old fart's control. In just over 3 months, Ningqing arrived at the Thousand Leaps Void City. If it were any other Void City, Ningqing would have immediately found a teleportation array and teleported to the next Void City. But the Thousand Leaps Void City was different. Ningqing had obtained the release soil from Cloudlight Dao Quartz Dao Monarch Lei Xiran. Ningqing remembered Lei Xiran saying that if he came to the Thousand Leaps Void City in the future, he would definitely gain a lot. Ningqing hadn't thought about coming to the Thousand Leaps Void City. But now that he had passed by, he naturally wanted to ask around and see what kind of harvest he had. Ningqing easily found out that the Thousand Leaps Void City's largest merchant house was the Thousand Ren Merchant House. If Ningqing wanted to ask around, he naturally went straight to the Thousand Ren Merchant House. The release soil was one of the 5 major chaos earths. Even if the Thousand Ren Merchant House didn't sell it, the Thousand Ren Merchant House would definitely know about it. Back then, Lei Xiran had said that the Thousand Ren Void City wasn't just for the release soil. I want to sell 2 Heaven Essence Heavenly Pills. After Ningqing arrived at the Thousand Ren Merchant House, he took out a jade bottle and placed it in front of the shop assistant at the counter. This was the easiest way to talk to the manager of the 1,000 ren merchant house. The shop assistant did not respond at first, but when he came to understand that it was the heavenly heaven pill, he directly threw the original customer to the side and hurriedly arrived in front of Ningcheng. "This Dao friend, what kind of pill did you say a moment ago? Heaven Essence Heavenly Pill?" Ningcheng knocked the jade bottle on the counter. "You didn't hear it wrong. It's a Heaven Essence Heavenly Pill. I want to talk to the manager of your merchant house. Can I have a look?" The shop assistant's tone was even trembling. He had heard that the Heaven Essence Heavenly Pill was very difficult to refine or even impossible to refine. As a shop assistant of the Void City's #1 merchant house, he naturally knew that the Heaven Essence Heavenly Pill really existed. Even the customer who had been left behind by the shop assistant swallowed his words and stared at the jade bottle that Ningcheng had placed on the counter. The Heaven Essence Heavenly Pill might not be valuable in Ningcheng, or even the most valuable item in the Infinite Realm auction. However, in a place like the 1,000 ren Void City, the Heaven Essence Heavenly Pill was definitely a top-notch treasure. There were many primordial Dao Divine Emperors in heavens beyond. How many planes did they come from? In some ordinary Void Cities, primordial Dao Divine Emperors were still powerful existences. Countless Dao Transformation Divine Emperors had experienced life and death in the void in order to prove their second-step Dao, primordial Dao. The Heaven Essence Heavenly Pill was a Dao pill that could allow first-step Dao Divine Emperors to reach second-step primordial Dao. Even one such medicinal pill was a priceless treasure in a place like the 1,000 ren Void City, let alone two. Of course, take a look. Ningcheng smiled. The shop assistant opened the jade bottle and scanned his spirit sense in. Soon he closed the jade bottle and said excitedly, "Dao friend, please wait a moment. Our shopkeeper will be here soon." Ningcheng did not have the time to speak when a lightning-fast hand shadow reached out to grab it. Ningcheng's hand swept out, and the jade bottle immediately fell into his hands, while the hand shadow grabbed empty air. "What? You want to rob in broad daylight?" Ningcheng's face went cold as he stared at a man with a flat nose. This guy wore a space linen robe and was Dao Transformation Peak Stage. A mere Dao Transformation Divine Emperor dared to rob the Heaven Essence Heavenly Pill in front of him. He was asking to die. The shop assistant also stared at this Dao Transformation Divine Emperor coldly. These two Heaven Essence Heavenly Pills were things that 1,000 ren merchant house had to want. Yet someone dared to rob here. "Qianbei, please calm down. Wanbei isn't robbing. Wanbei just wants to see if it's really the Heaven Essence Heavenly Pill. If it is, Wanbei is willing to trade something with Qianbei." The Dao Transformation Divine Emperor quickly explained. "Oh, what do you have to trade with me?" Ningcheng's gaze fell on the Dao Transformation Divine Emperor. The Dao Transformation Divine Emperor quickly said, "I need to know if it's really the Heaven Essence Heavenly Pill before I can show Qianbei my thing." Ningcheng threw the jade bottle to the Dao Transformation Divine Emperor and said, "Then have a look. After that, show me your thing." Even if this Dao Transformation Divine Emperor was extremely powerful, he wouldn't be able to escape from him. Therefore, Ningcheng simply did not care about it as he threw the jade bottle to him. The Dao Transformation Divine Emperor caught the jade bottle and paused for a moment. He didn't expect to get the jade bottle so easily. Was this person not afraid of him running? But Ningcheng's cultivation level seemed immeasurable. His actions just then were already very fast, and he attacked without any warning. Even so, he didn't get the jade bottle. One could see that this Qianbei wasn't afraid of him running at all. The Dao Transformation Divine Emperor thanked Ningcheng and scanned his spirit sense in. In just a second, he closed the jade bottle in joy and said, "Qianbei, I'm willing to trade. This is my thing, please have a look." As he spoke, the Dao Transformation Divine Emperor took out a jade box and put it in Ningcheng's hand. His heart was thumping wildly. Although he knew that the value of his things was far higher than the two Heavenly Heaven Pills, these two Heavenly Heaven Pills were what he wanted the most. These were special-grade Heavenly Heaven Pills. Ningcheng didn't even open the jade box and scanned his spirit sense in. When he saw what was inside, there was shock in his eyes and he said, "Okay, I agree to the trade." Wait, Ningcheng's voice had just fallen when a voice arrived. Chapter 1248. Seeing this, the Tao Actualization Divine Emperor recognized the person who told him to stop. He quickly put away the jade bottle and was about to leave. Stop. The man stopped the Tao Actualization Divine Emperor. It was a middle-aged man with Tao Essence tertiary stage cultivation. Ningqing guessed he was the manager of Qianren Merchant Tower. Qianren Qianbei, I've already traded with this Qianbei. The Tao Actualization Divine Emperor clearly felt wary of this middle-aged man. The middle-aged man said calmly, this is Qianren Merchant Tower. Even if you want to trade, you have to ask Qianren Merchant Tower's permission. If everyone casually transacts in my Qianren Merchant House, how can my Qianren Merchant House do business? The Tao Actualization Divine Emperor's face looked bad, but he didn't dare to refute this middle-aged man. Not only was this person stronger than him, but this place also belonged to Qianren Merchant Tower. Ningcheng saw the Tao Actualization Divine Emperor look at him and smiled. You can leave. No one will stop you. The middle-aged Tao Essence Divine Emperor's face changed. He looked at Ningcheng and said, Tao friend, although my Qianren Merchant Tower will trade with you, our rules aren't something an outsider can interfere with. Ningcheng ignored the middle-aged Tao Essence Divine Emperor. He looked at the Tao Actualization Divine Emperor, who didn't dare to move and said, I told you to leave. Don't blame others for not leaving. Hearing this, the Tao Actualization Divine Emperor finally gritted his teeth and charged out. You're courting death. The middle-aged Tao Essence Divine Emperor didn't have time to look for trouble with Ningcheng. He grabbed towards the Tao Actualization Divine Emperor. But as soon as he formed the hand seal, he found himself bound by a powerful space law. At this moment he couldn't move at all. He could only watch as the Tao Actualization Divine Emperor disappeared into the street. As soon as the Tao Actualization Divine Emperor disappeared, the middle-aged Tao Essence Divine Emperor felt the binding around him loosen. Everything became natural again. Qianbei. The middle-aged Tao Essence Divine Emperor looked at Ningcheng in shock. To be able to use space law to bind him, this was simply Tao Integration Divine Emperor. If a Tao Integration Divine Emperor came to the Thousand Ren Void City, all the experts of the Thousand Ren commercial building combined would probably be no match for him. Ningcheng showed a faint smile. The deal between me and him is our own business. It has nothing to do with your Thousand Sparks Merchant House. Yes, I understand. I was too presumptuous just now. Please forgive me, Senior. The middle-aged man's voice was filled with fear. Although this was not a big deal, there were many examples of merchant houses being destroyed because of this. Ningcheng waved his hand and spoke. Let's forget about the matter from a moment ago. Are you the shopkeeper here? Yes, I am Yan Jingyao. I am in charge of the Qianren Merchant House's operations. Yan Jingyao quickly bowed and replied. Ningcheng nodded. In that case, I have a few questions to ask you. Senior, please take a seat in the guest hall upstairs. Yan Jingyao, on realizing that Ningcheng's strength far surpassed his own, spoke with a tone filled with fear and trepidation. Yan Jingyao led Ningcheng to the second floor, and served him a cup of top-notch divine spirit tea before asking carefully, Senior, please ask me any questions you have. I will tell you everything I know. Okay, I heard that a piece of released soil was auctioned in the Thousand Ren Void City. Which auction house sold it? Ningcheng asked directly. Yan Jingyao replied in a respectful tone. This piece of released soil was auctioned by the Qianren Commercial Building. I heard that it came from the Jiaoliang Mountain. A mid-stage primordial chaos expert came to auction the released soil. He originally sent a large piece of released soil to the Thousand Ren Void City for auction. I don't know what happened later, but he took more than half of it back and only left 1/3 here for auction. This is because this piece of released soil is one of the most precious treasures auctioned by our merchant house. I remember very clearly that it was won by a man in a green robe. Apart from that, what other precious treasures are there in the Thousand Ren Void City? Ningcheng asked again. He had nothing to do in the Thousand Ren Void City. He had deliberately paused because of Lei Xiran's words. There's also a broken creation cultivation technique. Yan Jingyao's words almost made Ningcheng stand up. He hurriedly asked, Creation cultivation technique? How can a creation cultivation technique be recorded? Ning Cheng was not a person who did not understand. The mysterious yellow formless that he cultivated was a good fortune cultivation method. Moreover, he had a vague guess in his heart that a good fortune cultivation method could not be recorded down. Only those with the treasures of fortune could comprehend this kind of cultivation technique. The black-yellow formless that he cultivated could only record some derivative cultivation techniques in jade slips. Yan Jingyao hurriedly explained, "Senior is right. To be precise, it's not a cultivation technique jade slip, but a piece of an axe blade. I heard that many fragments of the creation indestructible axe were lost in the Jiaoliang mountain. These fragments come in different sizes. The axe blade is a fragment of the creation indestructible axe found in the Jiaoliang mountain. It's a very large piece. The blade of the axe was half a foot long. I heard that the person who found the axe blade was a Tao Nourishment Divine Emperor. When he saw the axe blade, he was overjoyed and wanted to keep the axe blade. However, he did not expect that the axe blade contained a powerful axe line killing intent. He was directly killed by the killing intent. A Tao Essence Divine Emperor who was passing by had good luck and picked up the axe blade. When that Tao Essence Divine Emperor picked up the axe blade, the Tao runes on the axe blade were very clear. Although it was broken, it was a cultivation technique. Many people who came later did not obtain the axe blade, but they understood part of the cultivation technique. Just by relying on this small amount of understanding, their strength soared and even directly advanced. Ning Cheng's heart moved. Just now, that Tao transformation cultivator in hemp clothes had traded with him a fragment of the creation indestructible axe. Ning Cheng had a creation treasure, and he could tell that it was a creation indestructible axe fragment. He remembered that Mang Yong also had a fragment of the indestructible axe on him. Moreover, Yan Jingyao had mentioned that the indestructible axe contained the good fortune cultivation method. From the looks of it, Jiaoliang Mountain had the most fragments of the indestructible axe. Since that Tao Essence Divine Emperor obtained the creation indestructible axe fragment, how did he appear in the Thousand Thunder Void City? Ning Cheng asked in confusion. If he obtained such an item, he would naturally find a place to hide in seclusion. Yan Jingyao quickly said, although that person obtained the indestructible axe blade, too many people saw it. He used an escape talisman to escape, but even so, he still could not escape the pursuit of others. This continued until he escaped into the Thousand Thunder Void City, and could no longer escape. That person was killed, and the indestructible axe blade was taken away? Ning Cheng asked immediately. Yan Jingyao shook his head. He wasn't killed. He knew that he could no longer leave after reaching the Thousand Thunder Void City, unless he handed over the indestructible axe blade that contained the creation indestructible axe. Later on, he really thought of a way to auction off the axe blade. He sealed the axe blade in Qianren Square, suspended it in the void, and let everyone bid for it. However, no one bid, and everyone rushed up to fight for the axe blade. Ning Cheng shook his head. It was obvious. He didn't ask because Yan Jingyao would definitely continue to talk about the whereabouts of the axe blade that contained the creation indestructible technique. Sure enough, Yan Jingyao continued, the axe blade entered the Yin family after everyone fought over it. After that, no one dared to touch the axe blade. Yin family? Ning Cheng looked at Yan Jingyao in confusion. Was the Yin family that powerful? No one dared to touch the indestructible axe blade that contained the Tao runes of the creation indestructible technique? Is the Yin family in the Thousand Thunder Void City? Ning Cheng asked. Yan Jingyao obviously understood the meaning behind Ning Cheng's words, and quickly spoke up. Yes, but this Yin clan is not a clan like what Senior thinks. No, how should I say it? The Yin clan is a clan, but there are no living people in it. Yan Jingyao spoke in a long-winded manner, but Ning Cheng understood. You mean that the Yin family was originally a family in the Thousand Thunder Void City, but after the family perished, no one dared to enter the Yin family's house. Yes, Yan Jingyao replied. Ning Cheng chuckled, stared at Yan Jingyao and said, you said that the Yin family was powerful and no one dared to go in. You said that there was no one in the Yin family and only a house, but no one dared to go in? If this kind of thing happened in the ordinary secular world, Ning Cheng might have believed it a little. However, the Thousand Thunder Void City was full of starry sky experts, and the weakest was probably at least at the heaven-seated realm. In Earth's terms, such experts were all exalted immortals. As for cultivators at the Tao modeling realm and above, they were experts who had touched the Tao of heaven and earth. Would such experts be afraid of an empty house? Even a house full of ghost cultivators wouldn't go that far. Even in the Nether realm, there were people who went in. Senior, you will know what this junior means when you go there. Yan Jingyao understood Ning Cheng's doubts and explained, before the creation indestructible axe blade, some people entered the Yin family's house, but no one came out. Later, the indestructible axe blade containing the creation indestructible technique fell in the Yin family's house. Many experts went in, including primordial chaos experts, but no one came out. Ningqing frowned slightly. Did no Tao integration experts come here? The indestructible axe blade containing the creation Tao rune cultivation method was enough to attract Tao integration experts. Even he would come to take a look when he heard the news, let alone others. Yan Jingyao said carefully. As for whether any Tao integration experts came here, I don't know. I heard that a Tao integration expert came here before. He observed outside the Yin family's house for a long time before leaving again. Ningqing didn't ask any more questions and said directly, "Take me to the Yin family's house now." Yes, this junior obeys, Yan Jingyao said immediately. The Yin family was in the westernmost corner of the Thousand Thunder Void City. While leading the way, Jingyao told Ningqing that the Yin family used to be the most powerful and mysterious family in the Thousand Thunder Void City. However, this family was very strange. They never did any business in the Thousand Thunder Void City, and very few disciples went out. Many years ago, it was said that the Yin family had offended a peerless expert. That peerless expert had fought in the Yin family's territory for several days and nights. Later, the Yin family had become a dead land and no one had come out. Chapter 1249. As the two talked, they arrived at the west corner of the 1009 Void City. Near the west corner, there was almost no one there. When Ningqing came here, he found that someone had already set up a simple defensive restriction here. This simple defensive restriction couldn't prevent the people inside from coming out, nor could it prevent the people outside from going in. Perhaps this defensive restriction was just a psychological effect. Standing outside the defensive restriction, Ningqing could feel a kind of gloomy aura. This aura was somewhat similar to the aura of the Dark Nether realm, but it was also completely different. Ningqing's spiritual consciousness swept in, but other than the tall gate tower of the Yin clan, there was nothing else. The tall gate tower was mottled and strange. On the top of the gate tower, there were 3 broken mottled words, Yin clan's corner. The corner was missing half of the words, making it look even more dilapidated. When his spiritual consciousness passed through the tall gate, Ningqing could only feel a gloomy black hole. No matter how his spiritual consciousness forcibly broke through the black hole, he still couldn't see anything. The Yin clan's corner was like the void, but it was even stranger than the void. He could at least feel the void. When his spiritual consciousness entered this place, there was only one word, hollow. Senior, this is the Yin clan. Very few people have gone in recently. Yan Jingyao pointed to the gloomy Yin clan's corner, and said to Ningqing. Ningqing waved his hand at Yan Jingyao and said, "There's nothing for you to do here. You can leave at any time." Ningqing despised people like Yan Jingyao who force people to buy and sell. If it weren't for Yan Jingyao's threat to that Tao transformation divine emperor, he might have taken out 2 heaven essence heavenly pills to sell to the 1009 Void City. Yes, senior. Yan Jingyao didn't dare to stay here. If Ningqing was in a bad mood and slapped him, he wouldn't have a place to cry out. Ningqing didn't immediately enter the Yin clan's corner. He observed from outside for a while. As Yan Jingyao said, after nearly an hour, Ningqing didn't see anyone enter the Yin clan's corner. Moreover, no matter what method he used, his spiritual consciousness couldn't penetrate the Yin clan's corner. Ningqing hesitated whether to go in or not. He had been to many dangerous places. Even the burial shadow blue sand was not a place where his spiritual consciousness could not penetrate. Even if he couldn't penetrate it at first, he could penetrate it after a while. However, his spiritual consciousness really couldn't penetrate this place at all. Even after trying for an hour, it still didn't work. Hey Brother Ning, what a coincidence. Did you also come here to look for the fragment of the indestructible axe? A familiar voice with a hint of surprise sounded, followed by Zhang Tai walking over. So it turned out to be Dao friend Tantai. Ningqing also smiled and cupped his fists. Ningqing didn't find it strange that Zhang Tai appeared here. The woman wandered around the void markets in the void in search of all kinds of rare treasures. Otherwise, he would not have seen her in the Heavenly Alliance Dao Pagoda. Now that Zhang Tai had appeared in the Thousand Thunder Void City, it was obvious that she had come for the good fortune indestructible axe fragment. Just as Zhang Tai said, it was quite a coincidence. The void was vast and boundless. Even if Zhang Tai came for the shard of the good fortune indestructible axe, it was still a coincidence that she happened to meet him here. Ningqing suspected that this woman knew that he was here, and then deliberately looked for him. However, he couldn't understand how Zhang Tai knew he was here. If Brother Ning wants to go in and look for the indestructible axe's shard, why don't we join forces? Zhang Tai's eyes flashed with eagerness. She wanted to join forces with Ningqing last time, but she didn't succeed because Ningqing didn't care about her. After meeting Ningqing this time, she immediately wanted to join forces again. She had a hunch that Ningqing wasn't a simple person. The reason why she came to the Thousand Thunder Void City this time was not because she knew that Ningqing was here, but because she heard that the Qianren merchant house had 2 Heaven Yuan heavenly pills when she passed by a teleportation array adjacent to the Thousand Thunder Void City. She didn't need the Heaven Yuan heavenly pills now, but she knew that it was something that only the top pill saints could refine. Someone who could appear in the Thousand Thunder Void City with 2 Heaven Yuan heavenly pills definitely wasn't an ordinary person. In order to find the owner of the Heaven Yuan heavenly pills, Zhang Tai deliberately came to the Thousand Thunder Void City and found the Qianren merchant house. After asking in the Thousand Thunder Void merchant house, she knew that Ningqing had gone to the Yin clan's corner. It wasn't that she didn't know about the Yin clan's corner. With her experience in the void, how could she not know that the Yin clan's corner contained the indestructible axis shard that contained the creation Dao runes? She had come here twice for this matter, but didn't dare to enter the Yin clan's corner both times. She was too afraid of the Yin clan's corner. She had seen a half-step Dao integration Holy Emperor enter the Yin clan's corner and never come out again. She believed that she was much stronger than that half-step Dao integration Holy Emperor, but she still didn't dare to take the risk. Zhang Tai had thought more than once that if she had this broken creation indestructible axis shard, she could definitely succeed in Dao integration in the most powerful way. She hadn't reached Dao integration yet, not because she couldn't, but because she didn't want to. With her strength, walking in the void was almost not dangerous. Moreover, after all these years, she also knew that Dao integration was very important. If she casually reached Dao integration, not only would her life end here, but her strength would also be far inferior to others. Ningqing smiled. I haven't thought about it yet. If Daoist Zhang Tai wants to go in, you don't have to consider me. Zhang Tai had a smile on her face without any embarrassment. Brother Ning, you know that I don't dare to go in alone. I've been in the void for countless years, and there aren't many people who I admire, but Brother Ning is one of them. So if Brother Ning wants to go in, I'm willing to be Brother Ning's helper. If Brother Ning doesn't go in, I definitely won't dare to go in. Ningqing didn't expect Zhang Tai to speak so directly. He wanted to say that he could go in and she could go in and mind her own business. However, Zhang Tai had always been polite and respectful to him since she met him. Even if Ningqing didn't like Zhang Tai, he couldn't say such words with his personality. Brothers and sisters, if you go in, can you take me with you? A young-looking male cultivator quickly walked over and spoke with a smile on his face. If it were on Earth, Ningqing would even suspect that this young male cultivator wasn't even 20 years old. It wouldn't be an exaggeration to call him a teenager. But here, Ningqing felt sure that the other party was more than 20 years old, because the other party had perfected Dao transformation realm cultivation. Ningqing still felt sure that this male cultivator wasn't old. It was Ningqing's first time seeing such a young perfected Dao transformation realm cultivator. In addition to peerless aptitude, he also needed countless cultivation resources. From this point, Ningcheng understood that this teenager came from a top-tier force. Moreover, this young male cultivator looked really handsome, and his skin wasn't any worse than Zhang Taiyi's. From the fact that he, a Dao transformation holy emperor, dared to enter Yin clan's corner with two experts far stronger than him, it showed how confident he was. When Zhang Taiyi saw this young male cultivator, a trace of surprise flashed in her eyes. But this surprise only flashed for a moment before disappearing. Ningqing didn't speak. If he wanted to enter Yin clan's corner, let alone a perfected Dao transformation realm cultivator, he wouldn't even want to bring Zhang Taiyi along. The young male cultivator didn't feel embarrassed when he saw Ningcheng and Zhang Taiyi not talking. He still showed his white teeth and said with a smile, "My name is Zhen Xiaobing. Brothers and sisters, you don't have to worry about me being a burden. I definitely won't drag you down. I've been waiting here for several years, and always wanted to go in with the experts to see the excitement. But I didn't see any experts. Instead, I saw a lot of ordinary people. It's just that after they went in, they never got a chance to come out. You haven't gone in even once." Ningqing stared at Zhen Xiaobing. Zhen Xiaobing touched his hair in embarrassment. "I went in once and almost lost my life, so I quickly came out." "You went in once?" Ningqing looked at Zhen Xiaobing in confusion. Didn't Yan Jingyao say that as long as one went in, they would die and no one would come out? Why could this Zhen Xiaobing come out again after going in? Zhen Xiaobing nodded without the slightest vigilance and said, "Yeah, I really went in once. It's just a hole in there. Once you go in, not only can you not use your spiritual consciousness, but you also can't use your spirit essence. Fortunately, I have a teleportation array disk that can be activated with a thought. I used the array disk to escape." An array disk that can be activated with a thought? Ningcheng's interest in Yin clan's corner wasn't as great as this array disk. "Dao Friendjian, can you let me have a look at your array disk?" "Don't worry, I just want to have a look. I definitely won't take anything from you." "Of course." Zhen Xiaobing put an array disk in Ningcheng's hands without even a shred of vigilance. The array disk looked very exquisite and had a very novel appearance. Obviously, it was not an ancient thing, but a newly refined one. Ningcheng had a good impression of this Zhen Xiaobing. He thought that even if Zhen Xiaobing wanted to show him the array disk, he would at least put forward a request. That is, when he went in, he would bring him along. Ningqing didn't expect that he wouldn't even ask, and directly handed over the array disk to him. Ningcheng's spiritual consciousness fell on the array disk and immediately felt shocked. This array disk definitely had not been refined for more than 100 years, but the array disk structure and the method of engraving array formations made him feel refreshed. He had studied the Tao of array formations for a long time. Even the array Tao jade strip that Nianyan gave him had traces of the array formation method. Zhen Xiaobing's array disk did not leave any traces behind. It was completely natural. This kind of traceless refining method was somewhat similar to the development direction of his Tao of array formations. However, Ningqing knew that he absolutely couldn't achieve this level. So strong. Ningcheng's spiritual consciousness swept through the array disk's veins and murmured to himself. Unfortunately, his spiritual consciousness could not penetrate it. Firstly, this array disk was not his. Secondly, he did not understand the refining method of this array disk. Once his spiritual consciousness penetrated it, it would most likely destroy the array disk structure. "May I ask who helped you refine this array disk?" Ningcheng handed the array disk to Zhen Xiaobing and asked in a very polite tone. Zhen Xiaobing casually put away the array disk and showed an unguarded smile. "This was given to me by my mother. My mother was worried that I would be in danger outside, so she gave me this array disk." Zhen Xiaobing's words were not very clear, but Ningqing did not ask again. He nodded and spoke. "In that case, let's go in and have a look. This Yin clan's corner. In case something goes wrong, let's all escape." Chapter 1250. Ningcheng was the first to walk into the restriction, followed by Zhen Xiaobing and Zhang Taiyi. Stepping through the broken entrance of Yin clan's corner, Ningcheng felt empty under his feet. At this moment, whether it was his spiritual consciousness or spirit essence. Both were in an empty state and useless. It was like an ordinary person standing on the edge of a cliff and falling off the cliff without any support. Even powerhouses like Ning Cheng and Zhang Tai would feel a sense of panic in their hearts. At this time, Yin Clan's corner did not feel like a residential corner, but a bottomless abyss. Ning Cheng did not move, nor did he forcibly stimulate the twin wings of the heavenly clouds. Even if it was a bottomless abyss, it would not kill him. If he, a body-refining powerhouse with a sacred body, fell to his death in this place, it would be too ridiculous. More importantly, he vaguely felt the aura of an illusion array here. Perhaps after a long time, or perhaps just a moment, Ning Cheng felt a tremor under his feet, as if he had landed on the ground. That tremor could even affect his mind and soul. But Ning Cheng's consciousness had a feeling that it was just a psychological effect. In fact, he did not even move. A panicked scream came, and Ning Cheng heard it clearly. It was Zhang Taiyi's scream. Ning Cheng raised his hand and grabbed Zhang Taiyi. Zhang Taiyi seemed to be in extreme panic. When she grabbed Ning Cheng's arm, she quickly held on tightly and did not dare to relax. It was like a person falling off a cliff grabbing onto a life-saving object. Feeling the power coming from Zhang Taiyi's hand, Ning Cheng suddenly understood something. He wondered why Zhen Xiaobing did not scream, nor did she move. It doesn't matter. As long as your nerves are thick enough, it will not affect you in this place. Zhen Xiaobing's indifferent voice came over. Ning Cheng raised his hand and threw out a bright light array disc. Immediately, the position of the three of them appeared clearly. Was there a cliff or a bottomless abyss where they were? A few steps behind the three of them was the broken entrance. The place where the three of them stood was just a huge bluestone slab from the entrance of Yin Clan's corner. Around the bluestone slab, there were only bones everywhere. Even if Ning Cheng refined a high-level bright light array disc, he could only see a small area in front of him. Zhang Taiyi finally recovered and quickly let go of Ning Cheng's arm. Her face looked a little pale. Ning Cheng remained silent. He didn't feel ashamed of Zhang Taiyi. He knew very well what had just happened. This was a great nightmare array. This array formation could even affect him, so it was obvious how terrifying it was. It was like when an ordinary person was dreaming. He dreamed that he was climbing a very high and steep cliff. When he was about to reach the top, the rock in his hand suddenly loosened, and he fell from the cliff. At this moment, both his body and soul were in a state of extreme panic. When something like this happened in a dream, once it exceeded the psychological endurance, it would not be strange even if one died. However, the great nightmare formation before him was on a completely different level compared to a dream. After all, dreams were fake. Once you couldn't break free from this great nightmare array, then it was real. The skeletons around the bluestone slab showed how many people had died here. It was only a few steps away from the gate. There was no abyss or killing array. So many people had died just because of the Great Nightmare Formation. I'm sorry, Brother Ning. I just fell into the Great Nightmare Formation. If it weren't for you, I don't know what would have happened. Zhang Taiyi's face looked a little better. She finally understood what kind of place she had fallen into. If she hadn't grabbed Ning Cheng's arm, she wouldn't have fallen. However, she would have definitely suffered some injuries. Moreover, once she got injured, no one knew what would happen next. Ning Cheng nodded and looked at Zhen Xiaobing with a meaningful gaze. Dao friend Zhen, you didn't suffer any injuries in this great nightmare array. You really are powerful. Ning Cheng said those words deliberately. Zhen Xiaobing definitely knew that there was a terrifying great nightmare array here. But when he came in, he didn't say anything. Zhen Xiaobing didn't feel the slightest bit of reprimand, and spoke with admiration on his face. Big Brother Ning's strength is simply too powerful. I barely got through it because I had a breaking illusion array disc. Big Brother Ning relied on his firm belief and mind to remain unaffected. This is what you call skill. When he heard Zhang Taiyi call him Brother Ning, he immediately called him Big Brother Ning. Ning Cheng didn't expose Zhen Xiaobing's lies. Zhen Xiaobing knew that there was a top-notch great nightmare array here, but he didn't say anything in advance. Obviously, he wanted to test his and Zhang Taiyi's strength to see if they were qualified to take him in. A Tao transformation Holy Emperor testing the strength of two primordial chaos powerhouses to see if they were qualified to take him in. Ningqing showed a faint smile. I didn't ask you about my ability. I just asked you about your method. Since we are working together, then we naturally have to discuss the method together. Otherwise, there would be no point in working together. Yes, Big Brother Ning is right. I did it because of this array disc. Zhen Xiaobing not only took it for granted, but he also felt a trace of shame for taking out the array disc too late. Ningqing took the array disc from Zhen Xiaobing and looked at it carefully before returning it to Zhen Xiaobing with a calm expression. This was a breaking illusion array disc. The Great Nightmare Array was a type of illusion array. A mere illusory breaking array disc was able to break such a terrifying Great Nightmare Array. The person who refined this array disc was incredibly strong, just like the teleportation array disc that Zhen Xiaobing gave him before. After Zhen Xiaobing took the array disc, Ningqing asked, Dao friend Zhen, you have so many top-grade array discs on you. Why do you want to work with us? You can go anywhere in this place. Zhen Xiaobing showed a slightly embarrassed expression. I don't have many array discs. I don't have the radiant array disc that Big Brother Ning used just now. Zhan Tai-yi suddenly said. Then do you want one? Ningqing immediately understood Zhan Tai-yi's meaning. If Zhen Xiaobing wanted one, Zhan Tai-yi would definitely say that as long as he took out a breaking illusion array disc, Brother Ning would definitely exchange it with him. Zhen Xiaobing acted like a little fox and quickly waved her hand. I don't dare and I can't. My mother said that things that are precious to you are even more precious to others. If a person casually asks for other people's precious things, then that person can't make friends. Zhan Tai-yi felt exasperated. Zhen Xiaobing not only refused her words, but also blocked all her excuses for asking for the array disc. Ningqing couldn't refine Zhen Xiaobing's array disc right now. Moreover, Ningqing knew that he still had a long way to go before he could refine such an array disc. In fact, Ningqing didn't really want Zhen Xiaobing's array disc. Even if she didn't show him this array disc, he would have the opportunity to refine it in the future. What's more, he had already seen this kind of array disc. It wouldn't be difficult to refine such an array disc in the future. Dao friend Zhen, are there any other dangers in this Yin clan's corner? Ningqing looked at Zhen Xiaobing with a smile. This Zhen Xiaobing didn't seem to have any ulterior motives, but she definitely was a little fox. Zhen Xiaobing showed a very good-looking smile, but her face still showed some shame. I came in with others before, but those two people weren't as powerful as Big Brother Ning and Big Sister Ning. I didn't dare to go forward alone, so I retreated. After coming here, can you still retreat from the gate? Zhan Tai-yi looked at Zhen Xiaobing with some suspicion. Zhen Xiaobing showed a blank expression, and then carefully spoke up. I really don't know if you can get out of this gate. I was in a hurry at that time, and directly used the transfer array disc to get out. Ningqing didn't have to guess to know that one definitely couldn't get out of this gate. Once one retreated, there would definitely be all kinds of dangers. Otherwise, no one would have come out of this Yin clan's corner after so many years. Since we're already here, let's go in and have a look. Ningqing finished and walked in. Zhan Tai-yi followed behind Ningqing, almost never leaving his side. The Nightmare Grand Array from a moment ago still left her with a lingering fear. Zhen Xiaobing, however, acted as if she didn't have a care in the world, walking at the back while looking around. Ningqing couldn't help but sigh in his heart. He didn't know who taught Zhen Xiaobing to take a casual stroll in the face of life and death. This reminded him of Duan Gantai. This Zhen Xiaobing was a different version of Duan Gantai, with an extremely confident temperament. Once such a person grew up, he would become extremely powerful and terrifying. Walking in the Yin clan's corner, every step felt like stepping into a bottomless abyss. Fortunately, the Ningqing trio knew that this was the Nightmare Grand Array. As such, they didn't fall into the Grand Array again like before. The trio walked slowly, and after the time it takes for half an incense stick to burn, Ningqing stopped in front of two quaint wooden doors. One of the two knockers on the wooden door was broken, and a row of words was written above the knocker on the other side. Since you're here, come in. Ningqing stood outside the door, and his spiritual consciousness once again swept into the door. It was still dark inside the door, just like the place they had just come from. Spiritual consciousness couldn't sweep in, and the bright light array disc could only see the situation outside the door. A faint aura of the Grand Tao emerged from the dark abyss behind the door. Ning Cheng cultivated the mysterious yellow formless, so when he felt this faint aura, he immediately understood that it was the aura of a good fortune cultivation method. Because Ning Cheng had obtained a fragment of the good fortune indestructible axe, he knew that this Grand Tao aura definitely came from the axe blade of the indestructible axe. From the looks of it, Yin Jingyao didn't lie. The fragment that fell into the Yin clan's corner was indeed the good fortune indestructible axe's axe blade. Ning Cheng sensed it, and so did Zhang Taiyi and Zhen Xiaobing. Zhen Xiaobing spoke up without any ulterior motives. Big brother Ning, I sensed a fragment of the good fortune indestructible axe's axe blade inside. Do you want to go in? Ning Cheng looked at the innocent Zhen Xiaobing and asked, Dao friend Zhen, there is only one fragment of the good fortune indestructible axe's axe blade. Now that there are 3 of us here, who should the fragment of the axe blade go to after we go in? You're tuning in to the Li Mei's Wuxia Whispers YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.